Good evening. My name is Mark DeSalvo, and I serve as the elected town moderator. Welcome to the annual town meeting of the town of North Andover, first established in 1646. I call to order the 2024 session of town meeting. Such a beautiful evening and day that we've had today. Do I hear a motion to move this meeting to the soccer field? A nice al fresco meeting. Is there such a motion? I wish we could do that. That would be lovely. We have a separate mask area in this corner of the building. Thank you for respecting those of our neighbors that remain apprehensive about large gatherings and choose to participate in town meeting. Wi-Fi is available. Just go to your Wi-Fi settings and it's under town meeting, the heading town meeting. You're welcome to use it. We also have closed captioning available for those who might need it on that Wi-Fi site. I note most importantly that the emergency exits are in each corner of the building. We have 6 on this floor, and if in fact they're ever necessary, let's be truly orderly about how we deal with it. This is the 378th annual North Andover Town Meeting. Each year, I try to highlight, if you would. Each year, I try to highlight a contributing or deserving stitch in the fabric of our community, a person or group deserving notice and applause, frankly. Scores of individuals help us prepare for this legislative session of our town government. From year-long review of books, records, and accounts to setting up tables and chairs, these colleagues and volunteers are pillars of the very democracy that we practice. Some behind-the-scenes profiles have been shared with our community of a tiny subset of the broad talents and efforts which make this meeting possible. 3 are being displayed on the screen right now, and I would like to invite Town Finance Director Lynn Savage, Emergency Management Director and Head Teller Jeff Coco, and citizen volunteer and graphic artist extraordinaire Jennifer Fresen to the stage so we can, through them, thank all who have generously assisted. For those of you who are willing and able to stand, please do so as I invite these good people just introduced to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I ask that we pay particular attention to the last 6 words. Ladies and gentlemen, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very, very much. By show of your voting cards, how many have been to town meeting in the past? In the interest of brevity then, I will dispense with most of my introductions, review of rules, and conduct, and will bring them up only as necessary, noting that we have all been previously published and are the same rules we have consented to conduct and enjoy town meeting for many years. Those rules begin on page 5 of your warrant book, and they are displayed on the screen as necessary. I'm grateful for the citizen advocates, Attorney John Fooey and Brian Hansen, who will be available to assist citizens with town meeting problems and act as deputy moderators if there is a need. If you need assistance, just call out from the microphone or seek out any of the tellers. The citizen advocates helping us with monitoring compliance of our remote questions initiative, a longtime volunteer, Heather McNeil, and our youngest volunteer today, high school student Kritika Roy. They are seated in the middle and the back of the auditorium near the entrance. They also act as our lost and found and problem resolution center. Let's thank them. I sadly note that we have felled a lot of trees today in order to conduct this meeting. Please utilize the familiar paper recycling receptacles located throughout the venue when you leave and in the hallways as you properly toss away the papers that you have in front of you and that you've collected this evening. I want you to know that I have sworn an affidavit, a written affidavit, that I have no conflict on the matters before us this evening, have not advocated a public position on any of the articles, and will perform my duties fairly and impartially. I will continue my practice of only voting to make or break a tie. Continuing innovations of past years, we allow those observing the meeting live on TV or streaming on the internet to email and text questions into the meeting. If you wish to participate, please go to the town's website, www.northandovermass.gov, 978-216-3774. These numbers and addresses will occasionally scroll on the screen. Closed captioning is available to all in the auditorium or viewing us remotely. Please go to the Zoom address displayed, and assisted hearing devices can be accessed by asking any teller or just raising your hand. We come together in good faith to make judgments for our entire community. Sitting here, you have been transformed from citizens. Shh. Please. Sitting here, you have been transformed from citizen to legislators. We leave cynicism and bad faith behind us, knowing the magnitude of our collective efforts. Thank you in advance for choosing to respectfully participate in local democracy. One does not have to be an expert to discuss items on our agenda. We are not an assembly that is arithmomaniacal, that is obsessed with and caring only about numbers and mathematics, but rather about the consequences of our judgments on all of our neighbors. At town meeting, we address matters of public policy, programs, and projects, not people. We do not discuss individuals or motivations. Caring for each other is of far greater importance than any differences that we may have in the moment. I now recognize the Chair of the Select Board, Laura Bates. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, Laura Bates, 26 Woodbridge Road, North Andover, Chair of the Select Board. I move that this meeting dispense with the reading of the warrant and with the reading of the constable's return of service of that warrant. I further move that the moderator not be required to read articles of the warrant verbatim, but be allowed to refer to articles by number and by subject matter, and further, that any motion or amendments need not be read, but are to be voted upon as shown, published, or otherwise provided in print to the voters in attendance.
Thank you. The motion is made. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your card. All those opposed, raise your card. We declare that a unanimous vote. Thank you. We deal with Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 by unanimous consent. These are merely housekeeping articles, as we have done commonly for some years now. Is there objection? May I have a motion, please?
I move to adopt Article 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please raise your card. Thank you very much. Any no votes? I declare it a unanimous vote. Similarly, we have another consent item that we have grouped by category, Articles 12, 14, 15, and 19. Is there objection? May I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move to adopt Articles 12, 14, 15, 18, and 19 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Is there a second? Motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your voting card. Thank you very much. Those opposed, raise your voting card. I declare it another unanimous vote. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just dispensed with a full third of our articles. Good moving. Now on to Article 5. Do I have a motion for Article 5?
I move to adopt Article 5 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. We have somebody who's going to be making a presentation, our Animal Control Officer, Mr. DeCenzo. Please come to this microphone, sir, on this side. Please introduce yourself, and we have 5 minutes on the clock.
I am Brad DeCenzo. I am the... Can you hear me now? All right. My name is Brad DeCenzo. I'm the Animal Control Officer for the town of North Andover. I'm here to propose Article 5, which incorporates our current bylaws for Chapter 60 and bring in more of the state laws, which have been recently adapted. Some of them have been here for a few years. With state laws, I have to bring in MSPCA law enforcement, Animal Rescue League law enforcement, which is state entities. By adapting them into our bylaws, it will allow me to enforce them.
You will excuse me, sir. We're at near capacity. If I might ask Mr. Fooey, Attorney Fooey, to please go to the cafeteria and act as deputy moderator, and that room will be opened and available for us. Please continue.
Sure. So by bringing these state laws into our bylaws, I'll be able to enforce them a lot stronger and easier. It keeps everything in town. I know a lot of the local vets, groomers, and other entities like that, so bringing everything into our community will make it a lot easier to follow up on. I think it will help our town a lot better. By adapting the new bylaws, it brings us up to 2024, along with other communities in the area. That's really about it.
Do you want to tick through what's been presented?
Absolutely. If you want to go to slide number 2. If you want to go to slide number 2, that is the general updates. It points out the prohibited areas for animals, such as going on the lake, which is our drinking water, school grounds, which is already in effect, but it gives the principal more leeway. Dangerous dogs, potentially dangerous dogs, it's big in the state right now. By bringing them into our town, it'll be able to enforce more things. So if dogs are biting constantly, getting loose, causing accidents, stuff like that, that'll bring us able to enforce more. Animal welfare, that's your tethering laws, dog houses, water, how long a leash can be, how long they can be outside. And then feeding of wildlife. A lot of people don't realize by feeding wildlife you're bringing in more dangerous wildlife, which can cause hazards. And then the next slide, please.
Next slide, please.
That is all of my contact information. I take questions 24 hours a day. If I'm up, I will respond. And I will try and to assist as best as possible.
Thank you very much, sir. Do we have any questions from the audience? Hearing no questions, I appreciate it a great deal. I think we're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please raise your voting cards. I'm sorry. Is there a question? Please come to the microphone if there's a question. We cannot hear you unless you come to the microphone to ask a question. Please.
Sorry. Karen Fugue, 517 Ray
Welcome.
Street. Hi, I have a question.
2 minutes.
Yeah, I have a question about bird feeders, hummingbird feeders. Are those still allowed under this?
We'll ask the gentleman right behind you. Are hummingbird feeders still allowed?
Yes, they are. Bird feeders, we're pretty much mandating people to feed the birds within the bird feeder instead of just going around throwing the bird seed on the floor or the ground.
Thank you. Any other queries? Okay, I think we're ready for a vote then. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your voting card. All those, put it down, thank you. All those opposed, raise your voting card. We'll declare that a unanimous vote once again. Thank you very much. We'll go to Article 7, our first financial article. Do I hear a motion?
I move to adopt Article 7 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there a brief explanation?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Melissa Rodriguez, Town Manager. This article is a local option that became available in the state's fiscal year 24 budget. It allows our municipal treasurer to apply the prudent investor rule to optimize returns on trusts only, which means that the town treasurer will have availability to a wider selection of investments, but will be required to invest and manage our trust assets using the prudent investor rule.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please raise your card. Thank you. All those opposed, raise your card. I declare it again, another unanimous vote. Article 8, is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I would move to adopt Article 8 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. Do I hear a second, please? Motion is made and seconded. Let's have a brief explanation. Whomever.
Mr. Moderator,
Thank
this
you.
is 2 unpaid bills from last fiscal year. One of them was for a veteran's funeral that the town will be paying, and the other one is for a oil spill cleanup, and we were waiting to see if we were going to be reimbursed from the insurance company or not.
Is there any discussion or queries? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. Those opposed? It requires a 4/5 vote. I so declare it a 4/5 vote. Thank you for your participation. We are now to the principal business of our meeting, our budget, which is our policy document. We will be discussing Article 13 at this moment, and then we will review Article 9, which is the capital budget. I believe the chair of the Finance Committee has a motion to make.
I do, Mr. Moderator. I would move to adopt Article 13 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made. Come on, guys, get into the groove. Tell me there's a second. Thank you. The motion is made and seconded. We're going to have a 12-minute presentation by the town manager and the acting superintendent of schools. Please commence.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It is my pleasure to present our fiscal year 25 recommended budget. The revenues for the fiscal year 25 budget increased by $6.2 million from fiscal year 24 for a total of $130 million, not including our reserves. Property taxes are estimated to grow by 6.4%, which is approximately $6 million, and our local receipts are increasing by $200,000. We are presenting a balanced budget within capacity as determined by our forecasting exercises and additional information we have learned since then. This $137 million number includes transfers to stabilization accounts, funding of capital using free cash, and is a comprehensive all-in number. As we know, new growth is new construction or improvements to the community and allows us to increase our budget by more than the 2.5%. Over the past few years, we have seen extraordinary new growth, much more than we typically would see. This year, fiscal year 25, we are forecasting $1.8 million in new growth. I think that fiscal year 26 will still be a slightly better than ordinary year, and then we will begin to return to our normal. which is usually between $600,000 and $700,000 in new growth. The numbers you're seeing here are not usual and not typical from what we would see. This chart basically shows where our revenue is made up of. Of that 73% of property taxes, about 78.8% of that in fiscal year 24 was made up of the residential property tax. This chart represents our fiscal year 25 budget expenditures. Again, this is everything. This is the state assessments, the amount we put in overlay to pay for tax abatements, our capital and reserve transfers. The fiscal year 25 budget includes a 4.5% increase in departmental spending from fiscal year 24, with the municipal budget increasing by $1.3 million and the education budget increasing by $3.3 million, plus a $700,000 salary reserve that is in the town budget to pay for the middle school teachers. The budget book is going to show a smaller increase for the schools due to some operational and efficiency improvements that we'll discuss now. This chart basically shows the breakdown of all of the town's expenses. While it shows education at 45%, as you know from past years, that's actually more around 60% once you bring in the shared costs as well as the benefits. There are not a lot of changes in the municipal budget this year. We've increased efficiencies by bringing all of our copy machine leases together. We continue to fund our Finance Committee reserve at the $1.5 million. There are salary reserves for all of our collective bargaining agreements. The town employees are receiving a 2% COLA. We are continuing to have our debt holdover plan, where as debt falls off, we are holding on to it so that we can continue to fund things like Facilities Master Plan 2 without impacting our taxpayers. We have one new employee, which is in DPW, and it's an additional tree climber. Right now, we only have one employee who can go in the bucket truck, so that will help us. And then we have a shared position with facilities that is mostly funded by ARPA and will be recycling and trash as well as sustainability. The biggest thing that's happening in this year's budget is that we are finally fully consolidating staffing and funding the facilities budget. We've moved all of our building costs from non-enterprise budgets to the facilities budget. In the past, the individual department heads were in charge of taking care of their own buildings. We've moved electricity and heating fuel items from the schools to the shared services budget so they would have the stability and efficiency of not having to worry about these items as they escalate.
You'll forgive me, Madam Town Manager.
Yes.
We're going to suspend the meeting for a moment. We're having a technical difficulty in the cafeteria. By law, ladies and gentlemen, any annex room needs to be able to hear and also be heard. At the moment, there's a technical difficulty in the cafeteria, so we're going to suspend the meeting for just a couple of minutes while we track that down. And when that's solved, I'd appreciate a report on that. Thank you very much. Let's take a small breather.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your patience. We appreciate it. Sometimes technology gremlins are not our friends. I would invite those people who are concerned about being heard in either the cafeteria or the gymnasium, that if they wish to have the certainty of being heard, to come to this room to make commentary or ask questions. But we will continue to try to use the two-way. If it fails at any moment, then the deputy moderators will make me aware, and we will deal with our problem of the moment at that time. Again, I thank you for your participation in local democracy, and I defer now to the town manager, who is amidst an important conversation about Article 13. Your attention, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just a refresher for those of us in the other room. The town and schools are presenting a balanced budget within capacity as determined by our forecasting exercises. The full budget is $137 million, including all of our transfers and free cash reserves, and it is increasing 5% from last year. Just another quick refresh, the budget is increasing for department spending by 4.5%, with the municipal budget increasing by $1.3 million and the education budget increasing by $5.3 $3.3 million plus $700,000, which is a salary reserve within the town's budget for the middle school teachers that will go in once the addition is finished. Again, this shows the 2025 expenses. And these are our highlights for this year. As I mentioned, really not a lot of changes in the town's budget. We have our salary reserve. We have a town COLA at 2%. We have one new position, which is the tree climber. And then the schools in town have come together to really work on our facilities department. It's a shared service that was never truly consolidated, and what we had was department heads and the schools really working on their own buildings using their own budgets. So we're moving that all together so that we can have increased efficiency. And we are creating 3 new positions, which is the electrician, HVAC, and plumber, with no increase to the budget to achieve these efficiencies. The reason we're doing that is that in fiscal year 23, we spent almost $171,000 in contract labor for electricians. In fiscal year 22, we spent $99,000 on plumbing labor only. And in fiscal year 22, for HVAC labor, we spent $256,000. We have 22 town-owned buildings, including the schools, and we know that having these efficiencies in these positions will allow us to better serve all of those constituencies. I'm now going to turn things over to Acting Superintendent Lathrop.
Good evening. I'm Pam Lathrop. I'm the Acting Superintendent of Schools. I want to thank you all for your patience tonight and thank you for your support of our schools. Tonight, I'll share with you the Superintendent's FY25 recommended budget. As our town manager has shared, the school received 5.5% increase for fiscal year 25. As you can see on this slide, this is an increase of $3,320,028 from our FY24 budget. This brings our total budget to $63,684,174 for FY25. This budget is aligned to town and district long-range plans, and the 5.5% increase allows the school department to continue the curriculum development across grades and content areas. This budget will maintain class size guidelines at all levels and includes all collective bargaining compensation for FY25. The FY25 budget allocations are personnel expenses and general expenses. $53,512,007 is allocated for personnel and $10,171,167 for general expenses, bringing us to a total budget of $63,684,174. On this slide, you will see I have noted that we are removing utilities and repairs and maintenance to the facilities account as the town manager has just shared with you. Thank you again for your continued support of North Andover Public Schools.
Thank you very much. Now you can do it wherever you choose, sir. As long as you promise not to trip the technology.
No, I'm not going to move.
Because it was your fault. We know that.
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine. You can blame me, Mr. Moderator. Fellow North Andover residents, good evening, and thank you for being here tonight in droves, apparently, so appreciate that. My name is Donovan O'Connell, and I'm honored to I wrote stand, but I'm sitting now, so I'll say sit before you as chair of North Andover Finance Committee. As members of the Finance Committee, we have a crucial role in comprehending and providing recommendations on all facets of municipal finance, representing the interests of our town's residents. Tonight, I would like to talk about the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025 and address a few other articles that we here at town meeting will discuss and vote on tonight that may have an impact on future budgets and the general health of North Andover's finances in the future. I would like to commend the town manager and her staff for working closely with the Finance Committee. The proposed budget for all town and school services and facilities, as you heard, that we're voting on tonight totals approximately $137 million. As you just heard, approximately $63 million of that is allocated to the schools. Property taxes, our property taxes, contribute the majority of North Andover's revenues, amounting to approximately $101 million, or 73% of that revenue. The school department's funding represents the largest portion of the fiscal year 2025 budget at $63 million, which is about 46% of our expenditures. As a finance committee, we remain confident that the town administration's ability to keep North Andover on strong financial footing We believe that the town administration has developed a smart and well-structured budget for fiscal year 2025. The town manager and her staff have worked hard to balance the budget, and it addresses both short-term needs and long-term goals. The town's solid fiscal position enabled us to make progress on delivering Facilities Master Plan 2 in a fiscally responsible manner, and it continues to plan out that it would minimize the impact on the average town taxpayer. It has also allowed us the flexibility to address unforeseen happenings like the flooding of August 2023, and we all cross our fingers that that doesn't happen again. I am pleased to inform you that the Finance Committee has recommended favorable action regarding the fiscal year 25 capital improvement plan, operating budget, and enterprise fund budgets. The Finance Committee is also making a favorable recommendation regarding the appropriation of community preservation funds to the projects put forth by the Community Preservation Committee, which we'll hear about a little later. The Finance Committee notes that this year the CPC has used its bonding authority to finance allowable parts of the middle school fields project under the State Community Preservation Act statutes. Under CPA, communities can issue bonds against their future CPA revenue stream in order to fund large projects. While this project is new to North Andover, the Finance Committee is supportive of the methodology to ensure the fund has monies available for projects during the time the middle school field project would be built. This is a strategy that has been successfully employed in other cities and towns across the state. The Community Preservation Committee has done a wonderful job with its stewardship of the fund over the years. The Finance Committee also favorably recommends Article 20, which will enable the town to borrow money for the remainder of the funds for the middle school field project that can't use CPA monies. We believe this is an appropriate step and one that is workable within the framework of future budgets without altering the plan for our borrowing around Facilities Master Plan 2. The Finance Committee is also recommending favorable action on Article 21, which would allow the change to the Greater Lawrence Vocational Technical High School District to allow the school to lease a hangar at the Lawrence Airport. The Finance Committee is also recommending favorable action on Article 28 regarding the 2021 MBTA Communities Act. While this is, strictly speaking, a zoning article, it is apparent to the Finance Committee that there could be some negative ramifications to the town if this article is not passed. State leaders have stressed that compliance with this law is mandatory. The communities that fail to comply stand to lose out on millions in state grants, which could impact our budgets in the years to come. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that the state has already begun legal action with regard to at least one municipality's decision not to move forward with their version of the zoning article. So future spending on potential lawsuits related to the law is also a very real expense possibility if we don't move forward with Article 28. It is those potential impacts which prompts the Finance Committee to recommend favorable action on this article. The Finance Committee has had a particularly busy year, especially over the last 4 to 6 weeks. We've held a number of meetings. At these meetings, the Finance Committee welcomes public input, and tonight, I would like to encourage you to participate in budget discussions and provide feedback on the proposed budget by following our meetings, attending them, and communicating with members of the Finance Committee. We want and value your input. I leave you tonight with the following request. As the legislative body for our town government, let us continue to engage, question, and make informed decisions that serve the best interests of our neighbors. Together, we can build a financially secure foundation for the growth and success of our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to recommendations now. Does the Select Board have a recommendation on Article 13?
The Select Board has recommended favorable action.
And the Finance Committee officially?
Officially, we have recommended favorable action.
Thank you. Now we'll open it up to questions or discussion if there is any. I see no discussion in this room. Is there a discussion in the cafeteria?
Yes, Mr. Town Moderator.
Please.
Hi there, Michael Bliss, 30 Union Drive.
Welcome.
Hi there, I am a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, but my question does not pertain to the board or their point of view at all. I just would like to have a sense from either the town manager of the school committee or the finance committee, what the impact on the implementation of our budget is, given the recent shortfalls that have shown up in the school budget.
We'll endeavor to get an answer to that question. Does anybody care to answer that? Slide 20 on the prior.
20.
Slide 20 on the budget, yeah. Please, Acting Superintendent.
Can you repeat for me the question?
The question is, what impact does the recent deficit circumstance have on services in this and future fiscal years?
Thank you. So if you look at this slide, you'll see that looking forward to FY25, we have a reduction of stipends that we typically give for some curriculum work in our schools at $65,000. Our IT department will be cutting their budget by $40,000. We have a separation incentive program for staff if they would like to leave service with North Andover Public Schools. And we have some reductions in positions that we can bring forward if needed.
Do we have any other queries or commentary? Please, sir, identify yourself.
Hi, Stan Novak, 26 Pembroke Road.
Welcome.
I would like to know if the Finance Committee has looked at the economic impact if Amendment 28 is passed. How will the schools be affected? How many students will potentially be added to North Andover schools? How many new 911 calls will be made? What will
You'll excuse me, sir. I'm going to ask that you hold that query until we discuss Article 28.
Okay, he brought it up, so I thought maybe...
I appreciate that.
Okay.
No problem. Any other queries? There are none in the main room. Are there any in the cafeteria? Any in the gymnasium? Thank you very much. Are we ready for a vote, ladies and gentlemen? All those in favor, please raise your voting card. You may put them down. All those against, raise your voting card. I will report a near unanimous vote in the auditorium. Was there a majority vote in the cafeteria?
Mr. Moderator, there was a near unanimous vote in the cafeteria.
Thank you. And a report from the gymnasium?
A majority vote in the gymnasium.
Thank you. I so declare that Article 13 has passed. Thank you for your attention. Will, you can clap. It's wonderful that we got back to work. We're going to go to Article 9 now, appropriations about capital improvement plan. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I would move that the town hereby appropriate the aggregate amount of $11,515,562 to fund the capital projects identified in Article 9 as displayed on the screen in the amounts designated for each project under the heading Select Board / Finance Committee / Town Manager Recommendations, and to pay all the costs incidental and related to each such project.
Thank you. Is there a second? The motion is made and seconded. Do we have a brief discussion?
It's a brief presentation, Mr.
Please.
Moderator. Thank you.
Article 9 presentation.
Well, while we're waiting, I'll just start getting into what a capital improvement plan is so we can move along. Capital improvement plan, as you all probably know, identifies capital items that are assets or projects.
5 minutes.
They have to be more than $25,000, and what we do is we do a 5-year plan in order to tell you what we're planning on doing and also how we're planning on paying for it. The fiscal year 25 plan is a lot of routine items, including regular IT upgrades, playground maintenance that we do every year, regular vehicle replacements. And then we have some new items. We have the replacement of our ladder truck, which right now is about a 48-month wait for our ladder truck. So we had to move it up a little bit on our plan, and we'll talk about the funding for that soon. We have a new ambulance, and due to the flood, we have the resurfacing of the high school track. We also have the continuation of Facilities Master Plan 2, with the fire station design, and the continuation of the Fields Master Plan with the construction for McAvoy and the design of the high school fields. This breaks down the capital cost by department. And there's lots of information in the budget book for anybody who might be interested in any of these. We go through and grade all of them and have group meetings where we talk about how we're going to move forward. And this is the fiscal year 25 funding sources. ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act money, is actually a sewer project. The bonding is actually for the fire truck. We will not actually end up bonding this project, but we need a full appropriation in order to purchase the truck. So what we will do is we'll basically use cash on hand, but have this authorization so that we can sign a contract because the law requires that. We have Chapter 90, which is streets work, at $812,000. We have projects that we brought forward to CPA at $360,000. From the general fund, about $6.8 million of that is using free cash, and the last $1 million is in the general fund budget. We have $250,000 being paid from retained earnings in the sewer enterprise. Retained earnings is basically the free cash of that. We have revolving accounts, and then $1.1 million coming out of water enterprise. Just as a reminder, we are continuing Facilities Master Plan 2. We'll be back to see you every single year as we move that plan forward. This year is the fire station design. Next year, you will likely see the construction of the fire station as well as the rest of the design funding for Kittredge. And that is it, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any queries in this room? And I ask you to silence your phones. The next one that goes off, buying drinks for everybody at Rolf's. Please, sir.
Joe Reardon, 62 Parker Street.
Welcome.
And I have a question. I see on the item as it's printed in the warrant, number 14, for the recreation complex, $1 million, and that comes from the general fund. As we know, we're also dealing with two other articles tonight, numbers 10 and 20, which would have considerable amounts of money going to the recplex on top of what's already there. My question is, if either of those were to fail, what happens to this $1 million that we're appropriating right now?
So may I
Let's
answer that,
endeavor
Mr.
to get you an answer to that question, please.
Absolutely. So we actually voted that when we were doing number 13. It was the transfer for the debt. But basically what happened is we continue to hold on to that debt so that we can do Facilities Master Plan 2 in the future, and we would just continue to hold it.
Okay, if I could just clarify. So we voted on that on 13?
In Article 13, the part where we talked about the debt holdover to capital. So that debt holdover was moving over to Article 9 to fund that project.
Okay, maybe that could have been clarified because it's listed as in number 9, item 14 in Article 9, which is why I'm asking my question now.
Understood. So it would basically just flow back into free cash next year. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate the complexity of municipal finance. Are there any other questions in the auditorium? Do we have any questions or commentary in the cafeteria? I would be comforted in hearing from the cafeteria, please. Thank you. And in the field house?
No questions from the gymnasium.
Okay. Are we ready for a vote, ladies and gentlemen? All those in favor of Article 9, please raise your voting card. You may put them down. All those against Article 9, raise your card. Thank you very much. This requires a 2/3 vote. I can report a near unanimous vote in this room. In the cafeteria, please. Thank you. And in the field house.
Near unanimous vote.
Thank you very much. Well, we've gotten back on track. I do recognize that there are principal items. We've just dealt with a particularly principal item, our budget policy of the budget and the capital budget. We are going to now move to Article 20 and discuss it in combination with a part of Article 10, but they will be voted on separately. Is that clear to everybody? Okay, so Article 20, if there's no objection. Mr. Holland, and do I hear a motion first? Motion is made. Is there a second? Thank you very much. Mr. Holland and Mr. Green are going to be joining us. Please introduce yourself and your addresses, gentlemen, and they will speak for 7 minutes.
Richard Green, 357 Ray Street.
Terry Holland, 133 Green Street.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Slide 1, please.
We'll start the clock again if you don't mind when...
No problem.
There we go. Now we can start the clock.
So for those of you who are not familiar with this project, it's been envisioned since 2015. There was a small group of us who got together, looked at the middle school fields in their current condition, which, as most of you will know, they're underutilized, they're in very poor condition. The Hayes Stadium, the track is in very poor condition, it's falling apart. So what this parcel is, it's a piece of land that's 16.7 acres, and it sits off Chickering Road between the middle school and Atkinson Field. It's bordered by Hemlock Streets and Parker Streets. The vision for this project was always to be a community development, not just a redevelopment of the field complex, but to encompass activities for all the community residents in this town. And in 2016, by order of the town manager and appointment by the select board, there was formed the Middle School Fields Improvement Committee, which was comprised of members of the field committee, myself, Terry Holland, a member of the select board, a member of the school committee, and other members in town. What we were entitled to do was meet with different user groups throughout the town, gather all the information, find out the input that people wanted to see in this community development. We had over 19 meetings taking into account comments from the school department, sports, of course, the senior center. We even met with the pyrotechnics company who performs our July 4th fireworks. That was very important to some people on our committee and in this town, because that's a big part of our community. We met with them, and this facility that's been worked out will allow us to have fireworks, as we do every year at the middle school, with no potential harm to the development of this project. When we first started out, there was 3 conceptual designs. It was narrowed down to 1 design, which is what you see up on the board today. And Mr. Holland is going to give you some features of this development.
I wasn't sure I was going to get it. So after meeting with everybody, we started out with a lot of over 100 different things we might consider. And after meeting with the neighbors and different groups, we narrowed it down. So we're putting in 3 age-appropriate playgrounds, walking trails, exercise course, 2 half-court basketballs, multi-courts for street hockey, tennis, and pickleball, which will be great for the schools and for the public. An amphitheater, which I'm really excited about, that the arts program is being recognized here. Baseball, multi-purpose fields. When we say that, we're talking about that the outfield of the baseball field would become a multi-purpose field when it's not baseball season. Recreation field, softball, outdoor and different outdoor events, being the fireworks and that type of thing. Bocce, shuffleboard, outdoor eating area, concession stand, gazebo, restrooms, which I think is really important. A lot of the seniors felt if they had a place to walk where there were bathrooms available to them at all times. So there'll be 2 half-mile courses there with bathrooms at each that'll be available to them all the time. And we expanded the amount of parking at the middle school, which I think is needed.
Can I get to slide 3, please? Slide 3. So this is just, I'm sorry, that's not slide 3. There we go. So just in terms of the budget, in 2018, the budget was $9.23 million, which included general conditions and contingencies. Obviously, most of you know this project, as it was approved by the Planning Board in April of 2019, has been in litigation. Due to COVID-19, inflation, differences in commodities, the price tag of this project is now at 18.3. Look at the current trend of construction over the last 5 years, you'll see that's consistent with how costs have increased. And if you go to the next slide, please. So this is the funding plan. Our chair, Bill Callahan, will speak to that. If you go to the next slide, please. So what I have up here is, this is just the letters of support from the different athletic groups. And many of you know that our athletic groups in town struggle with the lack of field availability. The Fields Committee worked very diligently this spring to develop a comprehensive schedule that worked for all of the groups because we struggle with the shortage of fields. Since the loss of the fields at Lucent, we've struggled mightily. We also struggle with the weather. In the spring and the fall, we have rainouts. The redevelopment of the middle school project with artificial turf fields gives us the ability to host more of those events without losing time. And this is just a number of the supporters of this project. And again, we tried to make this project inclusive of all of our residents. We've always envisioned this project to be the crown jewel of this town. And again, it's always been about this community, not just the sports groups, but it will benefit us.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mr. Callahan will have 2 minutes. Introduce yourself, sir.
Good evening. Bill Callahan, 23 Lyman Road, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. If we could go to slide 3 on the Community Preservation Committee slide deck.
Good. What do you need?
No, we need, actually, you can go back to the funding slide, and that'll be fine. That one's fine.
Okay. Let's start the 2 minutes now. Thank you.
Okay. Very quickly, the Community Preservation Committee, as you'll see in my report a little later tonight, has about $10 million available this fiscal year to be spent. And when we looked at this project and we said, we have about 10 million, the town needs around 6 million, would it make sense for us to put all of that out in cash in 1 year? And we said no. Would it make sense for you to take your 401k and buy a house right now? No, it wouldn't. What we decided was to bond it over 10 years, and this would allow us the flexibility to be able to afford the project, to allocate about 20 to 25% of our yearly revenues towards the bonding cost, and continue to maintain a large reserve in case we had a big project come up, an unanticipated land purchase that are kind of opportunistic. So we thought this was the prudent way to go, even though we have enough reserve to do it. We felt like this balanced short and long-term needs of our town better than spending it all at once.
Thank you very much. I have a quick announcement to make. If your birthday is July 8th, 1964, and you live on a street that begins with the letter B, your license was left behind, and it's at the center of the room, right in front of the balcony, if you will, and we'll keep it in safekeeping for you. Happy birthday in a couple of months. Do we have a recommendation from the Select Board?
Yes, the Select Board recommends favorable action.
Do we have a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Yes, the Finance Committee, recommends favorable action.
Do we have a recommendation from the Planning Board?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the Planning Board recommends favorable action.
Okay. Do we have any questions or commentary in this main room? I see none. Do we have question? Oh, please, you're welcome to come forward.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Please.
Joan Kulash. Boy, my voice sounds so different. Joan Kulash, 55 Brad Street Road.
Welcome.
I'm voting no for more money for this project. Residents of this town do deserve beautiful, safe fields. There is no doubt about it. But without going into debt for 25 years and robbing huge sums of money from our precious community preservation fund. The current proposed project is jammed to the gills with expensive frills, to the point that last year the Select Board actually considered the extreme measure of taking a strip of the abutter's property by eminent domain in order to fit in all the bells and whistles. When considering whether to approve the project design in 2018, one of the planning board members said the proposed project is shoehorning too much onto the available space, and I agree. The town's 5-year projected operating budget posted on our website, the town's website, shows 4 years of growing deficit in the millions. This deficit does not include tonight's $3.8 million Recplex bond, and even when you spread it over 25 years, 10 years, that's adding an additional hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're paying. The budget for the proposed Recplex does not include the fact that the artificial turf will have to be replaced twice while we're still paying for the original turf. The town does not mention much about the $3,261,000 in interest that we have to pay on top of the 2 bonds if we vote for this. $13 million in bonds and interest they're asking for tonight, on top of the $6 million we already gave, is nothing short of extreme. I will just say one more sentence, and that is we can have this facility now if we scale it back so that it's affordable and make it safe so that we avoid artificial turf. The Board of Health at Oak
Thank you
Bluff
for your commentary.
just recently banned artificial turf. Thank you.
Thank you for your commentary. Please, everybody.
Hi, my name is Kate Kiesling. I'm at 33 West Woodbridge Road.
Welcome.
And I just want to reference a study that I think y'all looked at, but I'm not sure really got enough attention, and that is the Toxic Use Reduction Institute at UMass Lowell did a long study, part of which I want to speak to on the cost factor. And Joan mentioned it, but the idea that we will have to replace this artificial turf twice while we're still paying for the original set is financially irresponsible in my opinion. And I think we could get away with doing regular turf. I understand that the fields get gross and it's a timing issue for sports. My kids play sports. And we are in need of this desperately. I wholeheartedly agree with that. But the cost factor alone, not to mention the safety factor of playing on that turf and the risk of CTEs and broken bones, just all makes that a bad idea, and I'll be voting no.
Thank you very much. We, at all times, questions take precedence. So if we have legitimate questions, not designed or disguised as commentary, that will take precedence, and you can move to the front of the microphone. We'll go to the left, and then we'll go to the cafeteria and the gymnasium if there are queries there. Please.
Kim Reardon, 62 Parker Street.
Welcome.
Mr. Moderator, just for clarification, I was expecting that we were going to be dealing with Articles 20 and 10 separately. So I had prepared, I knew we got 2 minutes. I had prepared to speak to both of those. If I understand you correctly, we're now lumping it all in and we get 2 minutes to discuss?
We are discussing Article 20 and that part of Article 10 that funds Article 20, and only that part of Article 10.
Correct. But
please move. Go ahead.
But I would like to say I had 2 minutes prepared for that.
Then you can choose 2 minutes that are important to you and then move to the back of the line if, in fact, we get there. I apologize.
All right, may we reset?
Please. I'm happy to restart the 2-minute time period. I'll accept your commentary as a point of order. Please go ahead, forward.
All right, so we are talking about all the different pots of money that we are reaching into to fund this recreation complex, okay? So I think it's important to talk about that. So Article 20 and Article 10, and actually Article 9 that got switched to Article 13 apparently, are all about the pots of money to fund this project, okay? I think it's important for people to know the background and to clarify the status of the 3 lawsuits they affect how this project is funded. The first lawsuit had to do with permitted use of community preservation funds. The town claims on its website and published materials that it prevailed in the first lawsuit regarding the town's use of community preservation funds. This is not true. The town, in fact, lost a big component of that first lawsuit regarding the permitted uses of community preservation funds. The town lost the second lawsuit. There is a third lawsuit still pending. It is the same judge, by the way, that ruled against the town in the second lawsuit. The fact that the judge has not dismissed or ruled on this third lawsuit means that it has merit. He thinks it has merit. We should not be voting on this article to pour more money into a project until we know the outcome of the third lawsuit. Back to the first lawsuit. The town plans to use community preservation funds to pay for the majority of this project. But the judge's ruling in the first lawsuit clearly prohibits the town from using community preservation funds to pay for things that it had publicly listed that it intended to do so, especially with regards to artificial turf fields. Originally, they said they acknowledged they couldn't use CPF, community preservation funds, to pay for that top green skin layer on top. The judge said you can't use community preservation funds to pay for anything that has to do with artificial turf fields, installation, drainage, excavation, okay?
One more sentence.
Anyway, I would say, so in the last 2 days, somebody moved the pots of money around. So I'm going to say that there was a presentation given to the select board on March 24th with the old items. The judge had ruled you can't use those items to pay, you can't use those pots of money to pay for artificial turf. And until yesterday, they still had that up there. Somebody went in and changed where the pots of money are, and you guys voted favorable action with incorrect information.
Thank you. Let's see if we can get some clarity on the issues that you raised. Is there any clarity that we might see?
And I think the only clarity is that there has been 3 lawsuits. In the first one, it was determined in a summary judgment that the taxpayers had standing. It was determined that the project's funding is appropriate to be used on recreational facilities that may have an incidental improvement to the North Andover Public Schools. It was determined this is a rehabilitation of an open space, so CPA is permitted. It was said that bleachers are allowed. We agree that turf is not allowed. We're not doing any turf, any drainage, and any field work using CPA funds. And it was determined that the use of CPA funds for paved walkways is permitted. It was also determined that the use of CPA funds for parking facilities, field lighting, concession buildings, restrooms, and storage buildings or units is permitted. We have reviewed the spending charts with Town Council as well as our architect to make certain that we have everything in the correct buckets, and we will be bidding the project out so that CPA funds will be listed separately from regular funds, and as we pay each bill, we will put them on our website.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any questions, preferably in the cafeteria?
There are none in the cafeteria.
Do we have any questions in the field house?
No questions from the field house.
Thank you. We'll move back here, and the last comment will go to the right.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. I'm Matthew Richardson. I reside at 30 Spruce Street in North Andover. As a matter of background for everybody, I am on the public record as an early supporter of the Recplex Rehabilitation Project and have been an advocate for this development in a number of groups and settings. This project had the potential to greatly enhance the quality of living in the town for a broad spectrum of residents. The proposal came with a great deal of hope and high expectations. From early on, I believed that the reformation of the fields would be a financial stretch for the community, but that the benefits to come would justify the expense. This community has long struggled with the creation, maintenance, and rejuvenation of our community resources, and this struggle has affected the quality of life in our town. Tonight, we are challenged to fund a project that has not entirely lived up to the hopes of many. There have been failings in the community outreach, communication, and collaboration across our diverse citizenry. We can ignore the more narrowed functionality of the complex that will perhaps not serve as broad a constituency as hoped, and that will have fewer accessibility options than essential for general community use. And the recent school development at the middle school almost guarantees that the area's greater isolation and limited use. However, tonight we cannot ignore the financial implications we face with a project more than double in cost. What once was a $9 million stretch is now an unjustifiable, potentially $20 million burden on town resources. What once made sense at $9 million doesn't make sense at 18 to 20. The addition of debt service that exceeds the expected lifespan of facility components is imprudent, and the unwillingness to reassess the development plan, to consider a phased development schedule or other means to better realign the project with community resources is unfortunate and unwise. To fund a limited-use facility at the revised proposed budget borders on caprice.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself.
Lynn Langton, 10 Surrey Drive.
Welcome.
Thank you. I have 2 points to make. I am a soccer mom. I was one for 15 years. I'm voting no for this project. I can't believe it. I appreciate all the work that's gone into it, but I cannot vote for turf fields. My daughter was on an NA soccer team and was in a championship game on turf. It was in the 90s that day. It was barely tolerable for the adults on the sidelines. My daughter was pulled from the game due to heat. Some of her teammates, their cleats were actually melting. Researchers at Brigham Young University tested 2 football fields that were right next to each other, one with natural grass and one with artificial. The surface of the artificial turf field got as much as 86 degrees hotter than the grass field on a summer day. This is no joke. My second concern is a disproportionate amount of CPA money that is being used for this. $6 million has already been earmarked for 2018 CPA funds, and now they're asking for another $5.9 million. What would happen if open space became available in this town, like Barker's Farm or a property by Lake Cochituick? We need to have the ability to pay for open space to protect our water supply. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Ann Gray, 49 Rosedale Ave.
Welcome.
I have a question about the funding. What's the debt service cost, and is it included on that sheet that we saw up there?
Question is about debt service costs. Does anybody handle that for us?
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So when we take debt, we typically take it so that it decreases annually. So the first year's payment would be $307,000, and in the last year it would decrease to $156,000. We do have capacity within our budget to do this because basically as these projects fall off, the later Facilities Master Plan 2 projects are coming on, and since this is such a small amount, it does not impact our ability to do those projects. For the average single-family home of $787,714, they would pay $21 per year.
So what's the total debt cost?
The total debt is $5,761,000 for the non-CPC. For the CPC.
Was that included on the spreadsheet that was shown up there?
Yeah.
The full cost of debt service with the CPA funds?
The interest is $1.9 million. The principal is $3.8 million. I can't answer what was on the chart, but...
Would it be possible for that slide up again?
Sure, let's try to do that. The costs.
And then for the CPC debt, it's a $5.9 million bond over 10 years. So a shorter lifespan. It total of $7.2 million with $1.3 million in interest. We are thinking it's going to be a 4% interest rate. We'll know more at the end of May when we go out to bid when we go out with our bond council for the middle school.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, doesn't seem to be reflected here.
I'm sorry, come to the microphone.
So I'm looking at these numbers and community preservation across with the bond, 5.6, 5.9 is 11.5. Where's the financing costs in there? Or is it all, the funding needed to cover the deficit, does that include
We're
interest
going to get an explanation on the chart for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So I think the way I'm understanding your argument is that it should include the $1.9 million in the 25-year bond and the $1.3 million in the CPC bond?
Yes. Is that included in what we see?
That is not included in this slide.
So that
Is your question?
interest is on top of this 18 million?
Yes.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
what's the total cost of the project then, based on your estimates?
1 minute, let me just add that for you.
Thank you
now.
for your queries.
Yes. You got it? Total, no, yeah, total interest.
I get you.
The CPC is 1.3, basically.
You guys want a couple minutes?
Just take a second.
Okay.
$21,571,970 with interest. Do you want me to repeat that again? Or do you got it?
Please, sir.
Yes.
Excuse me. Let's be quiet. We have a total for you. Let's
Yes.
try it again.
The total with interest over the 25-year period was $21,571,970. Got that?
We clear? Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Keith Connors, 4 Village Green Drive. I just want to say I'm a big supporter of open space, of playing fields, of playgrounds, etc. And surprisingly, I find myself in front of this microphone against this project, and mostly because I really care about the kids. When I kind of really researched into artificial turf and why is the NFL getting rid of artificial turf, a lot of professional sports teams, etc., you really start to look at the science and the forever chemicals that go into the crumb rubber, the fill for artificial turf, the blades of grass on the artificial turf as well. It's just harmful for our youth, and they're going to be playing it over a long period of time. I heard another woman talk about the heat and these heat fields that are created from it. And I'm voting with the youth today. There's fields now. I'm hoping you'll come back with a better project, and everyone will have 100% of my support for a better field and a better project that costs less money. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Diane Huster, 279 Winter
Welcome.
Street. I'm very concerned reading the doubling of costs for this Recplex project and its impact on the town's debt service as well as on future projects approved in 2022. Those have already started and those planned for the future in the town's master facilities plan. The Recplex doubled cost impact and new debt service on a carefully planned master plan capital projects budget as well as the town's long-term debt service has not received much public attention, if any. The townwide master facilities plan written in 2022 and approved has already started at the middle school and in planning stages for a new Kittredge school, a fire station plan for FY25 and construction in 26, school renovations and additions to Franklin, Atkinson, ABECC, and the youth center in the following years, plans based on the original Recplex costs. The Recplex doubled in cost. Inflation and interest rates are much higher than planned. We should be aware and plan with this long time frame. All these other projects will have significant cost increases. Increased costs the town may not be able to bear for these projects, some that have waited decades. Plans that probably will need to be cut back, wish lists not fulfilled even if needed. The Recplex, according to Article 20, already has $9.2 million. They can build new fields, but not everything. Future projects in the pipeline also may not meet all their needs and probably wait far longer for completion. Every project, including the Recplex, must tighten their belts. Accept the budget voted in 2018 and build your fields. I urge you to vote no on Article 20 and no on the funding line items for the Recplex in Articles 9 and 10.
Thank you. We've heard a fair bit of commentary. Let's not have repetitive commentary. Please come forward, sir. And if you don't mind, please.
Good evening. My name is John Driscoll, 56 Meadow Lane, North Andover.
Welcome.
Thank you. I get a sense that the primary tension over this article is the AstroTurf, the artificial turf. I'm wondering if there was any thought towards replacing AstroTurf with just natural grass. And Mr. Moderator, I have a question for you. As a point, I don't know procedures and things. This is a sincere question. I'm wondering if you might be able to just simply poll a number of the people here that are gathered tonight to understand whether or not that's their one and only reason for being against the plan. And if so, is there room for compromise?
We don't do censors of the meeting in this meeting. However, I will endeavor to get you an answer to your query about natural grass versus AstroTurf.
Might I add to that then, if you were able to? Comparison of the cost.
We'll try to get an answer to that. Thank you.
Sir.
Anybody want to pick up that query?
I believe Mr. Green was asking.
Mr. Green?
if he could be recognized.
So in the development and design of this project, we did look at the possibility of natural grass versus artificial turf. As a matter of fact, when the issue came up about artificial turf, we looked into different types of artificial turf that had been used over in some projects. What we found is crumb rubber was the most reliable product that was out in the market. Some other products that we looked at had a cost of almost $600,000 more at that time in 2018. The reason why we are proposing artificial turf in these fields is because if you look at some of our fields, take for instance the high school baseball field. There's a problem with geese excrement that's all over the field, and that field is not sustainable, and it does not receive the amount of use that these fields would be seen. Artificial turf is used in many communities. Depending upon what research you do on what internet site, you're going to get a different opinion as to what people feel are hazards related to the crumb rubber, the chemicals in it, versus injuries and cuts and infections that may be caused by it. If you read some internet websites, you'll see that there is no substantial increase in injuries between artificial turf and natural grass. Now,
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Hi, Elizabeth Guerin, 85 Johnson Street. I wasn't originally going to speak to this, but upon hearing the amount of interest being paid on this project, I just want to say that the average homeowner, when you buy a house, you get something called a truth in lending statement that tells you exactly how much your mortgage is going to cost you. It spells out the interest, and I think we need to think about doing that on an ongoing basis with some of these projects, because that number is just way beyond what I had anticipated from looking at what was shown to us tonight. So I'm wondering how many other projects have these ongoing loaded costs that we're not really seeing here because we don't have a truth in lending statement. I don't mean that as a criticism of our town management. I mean, you guys do a great job. Our select board, you're all volunteers. I know you work really hard at this, but sometimes it gets ahead of everyone. And we have to think about what we have to do on a regulatory basis to make sure everyone understands what they're signing up for. Someone across the way just spoke about the quality of life in the town. And this project is not going to benefit town members equally because it's going to generate heat disproportionately. Grass releases water. It's a natural substance. When you get hot, you sweat. Grass sweats because it's real, it's alive. Plastic does not sweat. It does not cool off. So you can say, look at this internet site, look at that internet site. Logic tells you it is not alive, it does not act like a living thing.
One more sentence.
So we're going to create a lot of heat here, no matter how you slice it, and the people around this development are going to suffer because of it.
Thank you. We aim not to create heat in this room, but light in this room. Sir?
Chris Upson, 770 Forest Street.
Welcome.
I just wanted to say I graduated from North Andover High School in 2019. I've played North Andover sports my whole life. I'm wearing my football shirt here. I had a question and a few comments. My first question is, does this new complex account for the middle school football field? I saw there was softball and baseball and everything.
It does encompass that space,
It does,
yes.
okay, all right. Because I would like to mention that I have played football on that middle school field. I was embarrassed, to be honest. It was pretty embarrassing hosting other schools coming there. It's pretty run down. So I just wanted to mention that. I also wanted to mention that I've played on turf my whole life from 5th grade all the way up till senior year. I think I turned out pretty okay. I don't have any things abnormally going on with me. I know that I can't speak for the funding and everything, but you have to admit that, as you were mentioning, that the cost for the life of the turf is probably going to outweigh the cost of maintaining grass, cutting it, all the different types of things that you have to maintain. Think about your home, all this different types of things you have to do with that grass to even keep it right. My grass at home sucks, but yeah, I just wanted to say that honestly, I think it's a program for a better quality of life, especially for the students. I think I can really talk for kids that just want to play on a good field and just I take North Andover sports my whole life. That's one of the best things I've ever done in my life, and this just seems like a good project for the community. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I'm going to unilaterally cut off the line. Only those people who are in line will have the opportunity to speak. Please, ma'am.
Hi, Rebecca Driscoll, 56 Meadow Lane. Can you hear me? I want to start by saying that I've talked to a lot of people about this project, and I haven't talked to anybody who doesn't think that we need better fields for our kids. I think the town is pretty unanimous on that we need better fields for our kids. But the artificial turf is definitely a point of contention for most of the people that I've talked to. Since the Board of Health reviewed the issue of artificial turf in 2019, that's the North Andover Board of Health I'm talking about, when the project was first approved, there have been 5 years of new data on environmental and health concerns, but the town has not asked the Board of Health for any updated review. Furthermore, studies show that athletes sustain more injuries on artificial turf. One study presented to the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine analyzed data collected by 26 high schools and found that athletes were 58% more likely to sustain an injury on artificial turf. In 2015, the U.S. women's soccer team filed a lawsuit over the fact that they were asked to play on artificial turf more often than the men's team and cited the increased risk of injury on artificial turf. But the people who have worked on planning this complex have really refused to give us specifics on what the costs of a grass field would be. When the project design first passed at town meeting 5 years ago, the graphic they presented omitted the words artificial turf on the design. And since then, despite protests from many in the community and a lawsuit, the town is still unwilling to focus on these concerns and give us real information about what it would look like to do grass fields. People in the town want what's best for our athletes. We don't want a fancy rec complex that will be a status symbol in the eyes of neighboring towns. We want new fields that are safe and healthy for our kids and our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand that there are questions in the field house.
That is correct.
We'll take questions from those who are patient in the field house. We'll take a couple anyway.
Mr. Moderator, Kevin Doobie, 76 Boston Hill Road.
Welcome.
Thank you. My question is, do we know, since these turf fields last about 10 years, do we know the cost to replace the turf fields? And are we budgeting for and allocating incrementally the money it will cost to replace them when that time comes?
Let's endeavor to get you a question, an answer to that question.
Mr. Moderator, could you summarize the question for the people?
The question was, do we have an understanding about what the replacement costs might be after whatever the 10-year or more life of the artificial field might be?
The last time the town redid a turf field, so a little different than this, was in 2017 when we redid the turf field here at the high school. That at that point was about $850,000. In my experience, it's usually around $1 million to replace a turf field. What I usually recommend is that we would create a revolving account and we take fees that we get from rentals for things like jamborees, et cetera, and use that to pay for future turf replacement.
Thank you. Is there another question in the field house?
No additional questions.
Thank you very much. Sir?
Wayne Gendron, 40-year resident at 134 Berkeley Road. Coached and watched our boys play baseball and soccer on our fields. They brought our family a great deal of joy, as it has to many. I'm supportive of athletic fields, but strongly opposed to the town funding being used to install AstroTurf. PFAS, a known forever chemical, is used in the manufacture and is on the blades of all extruded grass for turf. Given all risk, AstroTurf is not cost-effective and not safe. I have a degree in hydrology and water chemistry. For the last 5 years, I've worked on PFAS removal for drinking water in Mass and in New England. I'm committed to safe drinking water and PFAS removal. Our Mass taxes pay to fund the Toxic Use Reduction Institute at the UMass Lowell. On their website, they have 2 papers regarding PFAS and artificial turf and safer field options. They've identified toxic exposure due to the crumb rubber, a suspected carcinogen, and PFAS, the ingredient in the blades. I'll skip basically to what the problem with PFAS is it bioaccumulates. It builds up in your blood and your tissues. Turi says children are uniquely vulnerable to the effects of these toxic chemicals because organ systems are developing rapidly and their detoxification mechanisms are immature. Children are also likely to have more hand-to-mouth contamination than adults. Concerns include direct skin and eye exposure to PFAS, especially with direct contact if cuts or scrapes are present.
One more sentence, sir.
I'm asking our leaders to simply scale it back, make it affordable, and make it safe for our children, grandchildren, our neighbors, our pets, and our future.
Thank you very much. Well, you too.
Mr. Moderator, Gerald
Welcome.
Brecker, 488 Pleasant Street. When we voted enthusiastically, as I recall, in 2018 to support this project, life was very different than it is today. Money was almost free, the economy was growing, people were employed, and life was good. We're now entering an era, so spending $8 or $9 million on this field and the improvements was something that everyone in town was enthusiastic about, and it made sense financially at the time. But we don't live in that time anymore. We're encountering severe economic headwinds, personally, in terms of the businesses that we're involved with, and the town. We've heard about the pressures that are coming on the town budget in the upcoming years. We need to start to learn to prioritize. It's possible that this field, we have $9 million already put away, Something could be done there that we'd be proud of for $9 million. Maybe not the same as the almost $22 million that we're being asked to spend, but something decent could be done. In other words, maybe we just can't afford to buy the BMW this year. Maybe we'll have to drive a Chevy. And it's time for the town to be responsible with our money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, the line's been cut off, sir.
Is my time started?
Please.
All right.
2 minutes.
My name's Kyle Ruin. Live on 13 Perry Street, North Andover. I've been a resident for every single year I've lived here. You like that? Yeah. In my experiences, I've played a lot of sports, football, soccer, wrestling, but I really don't like turf fields. There's nothing worse than discovering turf burn when you are playing in the shower. It sucks. I don't recommend it. But with grass, it's natural. It's like from the earth. It's I don't know how to put it, but I feel like your cleat grips the grass better, which prevents you from being injured. So I think we should just stick to the grass that we have and then use that money for something else if that's possible.
Thank you. There are two speakers. I'm going to ask them to be quick, and then we're going to go to a vote. Okay, everybody? Please.
I have an answer regarding the cost.
I'm sorry?
I have an answer regarding the cost between artificial turf.
You have 2 minutes.
And natural grass. Scientists from the Toxic Use Reduction Institute conducted a very, very in-depth cost study analysis of artificial turf versus natural grass. And to digest, excuse me?
The lady
Joan
has
Kulash,
spoken
55 Brad
previously,
Street Road.
and her name and address is on the record.
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
very welcome.
Moderator.
Go ahead.
Joan Kulash, 55 Brad Street
Not
Road.
necessary.
In
Go
nearly
ahead.
all scenarios, the full life cycle cost of natural turf, including installation management and disposal replacement, is lower than the life cycle of artificial turf fields for an equivalent area. Natural grass is cheaper than artificial turf. I also want to piggyback on to what Lynn said about the exorbitant amount of Community Preservation Act funds, precious Community Preservation Act funds, that can be used to buy open space. Open space not only to protect our watershed, but to protect us from large developers who come in, buy open space, and build these monstrosities in this community. Thank you.
Our final speaker.
Thank you. Mark Barrios, 340 Summer Street.
Welcome.
I was just wondering if the board has considered in looking at taking all these extra costs without looking at scaling back the plan, if you guys have considered at all that you're helping feed into the very inflation and construction costs that have driven us up to this cost to begin with, by not signaling to builders that you're willing to tighten up like our belts and look at a scaled back, more, sustainable plan to fund these fields.
Thank you. I don't know if there is an answer to that question.
Mr. Moderator, I think the only thing I would say is that if we do decide that we want to scale back the plan and create a different plan, we do have to go back to the planning board for site plan review, which would again open us to a new appeal. So I just want to be clear that there would be costs affiliated with redesigning and then going through another appeal process.
Excuse
Okay,
me,
folks.
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, behind you. You had asked the school committee for a recommendation on this, and we hadn't made it.
Not yet.
Okay.
Have we done recommendations of all the other boards? We have been. My apologies to the school committee.
So the school committee enthusiastically recommends favorable action.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this vote requires a 2/3 vote. If we can eyeball a two-thirds vote, the general laws allows the moderator to make a declaration, and we can do that in 3 separate rooms. So let's try it and see if there's an apparent two-thirds vote or not.
Point of order.
Please, state your point of order.
I don't understand. Are we voting for both 22
No,
and 10?
I'm about to get there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We are voting only on Article 20 right now, only Article 20. So those in favor of Article 20, excuse me? Yes, we can do that. If we could put up Article 20. Thank you very much. There we are. So those in favor in each room of Article 20, please raise your voting card. Okay, I think we have enough time for everybody in each room. Those against Article 20, raise your voting card. Okay. The moderator in this, you can put your cards down. I'd like a report from each of the rooms. I cannot comfortably report that there was a two-thirds vote in this room. May I ask the determination and judgment of the moderator in the cafeteria?
Mr. Moderator, I cannot comfortably say there's a two-thirds in support.
Thank you. And in the, please folks, and in the field house?
There was not a clear two-thirds vote in the gymnasium.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a declaration that the vote has failed. Any 7 people can doubt the declaration and move to a hand count. It will take a little bit of time, but we're prepared to do it if you wish. Are there 7 people who wish to stand to take a hard count?
Mr. Moderator, we have at least
I see a sufficient number of people standing. So this is how it's going to work, folks. Again, all those in favor in each of the rooms, raise your hand, and the counters will tally your judgment. Keep your cards up until you're instructed to put them down.
Section 8, you can put your cards in.
It's up to them. You can tell people to put their, are you ready?
It's going to take us a little bit to count just be patient.
Okay, everybody, I think we're ready to hear a tally on the counts. We're going to display them on the screen. Are we ready? Okay, we'll wait.
Mr. Moderator.
The noes have not been counted yet.
Mr. Moderator, can you confirm we're only counting the yea votes this time?
We've got one section that's yet to be counted in the main room. Tell me when we're ready. Are we ready? Teller, what section is that in the corner? What section is that in the corner? Okay, it looks like we're ready. Okay, now we are recording only the yes votes at this moment in time. And I have section 1, please.
Section 1, 41.
41. Section 2.
Section 2, 42.
42. Section 3.
Section 3, 34.
I thought it was going to be 43. I was going to bet on it, but that's all right. Section 4.
Section 4, 50.
Thank you very much. Section 5.
Section 5, 51.
Thank you. Section 6.
Section 6, 67.
Thank you. Section 7, which is in the cafeteria.
17.
17. Section 8. 55. Section 9.
16.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Section 9.
60. Section 9. Okay. Let's do section 9 once again. 16. Is that correct? Thank you very much. Section 10.
Section 10, 39.
Say it again, please.
Section is
13-9. Thank you. Now we're going to the field house, section 11.
Section 11 reports 130. 130.
130. Section 12.
Section 12, 21.
Section 12 is 21. Do we have a section 13? We do not. Okay. So, in the affirmative, 563 votes. We are now going to count the no votes. All those who are against Article 13, please raise your voting card. While this is being counted, I'd like to take advantage of the moment and ask that we give our appreciation to several who are not sharing the stage today. First among them is our former Select Board member, Richard Valancourt, who chose not to run for re-election and is elevated now to the title of citizen. Thank you very much, Dick, for your service. As well, former school committee members Andrew McDevitt and Pam Petrowski, who declined to run for re-election. Thank you once again to the both of you. I'd like to welcome their replacements, Dr. Ed Moskovich and Kelly Cormier, to the school committee. Welcome. And to the select board, Dave Kress. I'll steal a little bit more time and thank all the members who serve on the little-known but most consequential Finance Committee. You have been sterling, and I appreciate your volunteer service. Thank you. It's important as well to note our police and fire departments who have helped make this a safe meeting. And the EMTs as well, who care for our communities so carefully. And one final note of appreciation to Attorney Max Butterbrodt, who for years served us as a citizen advocate and deputy moderator, and more recently as an elected member of the North Andover Housing Authority. Professional opportunities take him away from his hometown, and we wish Max well. Thank you, sir. And it's in the same place. I have another gift to afford here. Somebody with the birth date of January 11th, 1990, and a last name beginning with V. We have your driver's license. It is in the same place at the back of the front of this hall, and you're more than welcome to come pick it up and not drive away without it.
Moderator.
Sir.
Ray Ahern, Salem Street, North Andover. I have been to the baseball field this year.
Sir, do you have a point of order?
I do.
Please state your point of order. No rationale, just your point of order.
Having experienced our existing baseball field and...
Sir, we are done arguing this item. You have a point of order, state your point of order.
Commonwealth Chevrolet gave us a new scoreboard at the football stadium.
Sir, I'm sorry, you are giving us argument. You do not have a point of order. I can't accept your... We're in the midst of a vote, sir.
Yes.
I invite you to take a seat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There may yet be an opportunity for you when we discuss the next item, okay? Are we ready? Okay. We're waiting for one more section to come in, folks. Okay, we're ready to hear results, tally of no votes. Can we have the tally up again? Section 1.
54,
5-4. Section 2.
83,
83. Section 3.
65.
55.
65.
65, thank you. Section 4.
63.
63. Section 6.
Section 5,
Section 5. Sorry.
Section 5, 51,
5-1?
5-1,
Thank you. Section 6.
31, 3-1.
31. Section 7 in the cafeteria.
Section 20.
Say it again, please.
20.
20, thank you. Section 8.
28.
28, 28. Section 9.
Section 9. 17.
17. Section 10.
Section 10, 2.
No. Section 9 is just 17. That's why we have eyes on these folks. Thank you. Section 10.
Section 10, 27, 27.
27. Thank you for your clarity. And in the field house, Section 11.
66.
66. And Section 12.
Section 12,
3. Folks, a two-thirds vote has not been attained. The motion fails. We are moving now to Article 10. Article 10. Okay, so it's fine. Get down there then. Get to a microphone. Article 10 will be slightly amended, folks. And by the way, we are going to move immediately at the conclusion of Article 10 to MBTA zoning, just so you know. So we'd appreciate if you'd stick around. Article 10 will be slightly amended because of the failed last vote, and the Community Preservation Committee will be taking the Recplex out of Article 10. Are we clear? So do I have a motion?
Yes. Move to accept Article 10 as printed on the screen and not in the warrant. Report of the Community Preservation Committee, appropriation from the Community Preservation Fund.
So as displayed on the screen.
As displayed on the screen.
Thank you. Sir, you need a couple of minutes to discuss this?
Sure.
4 or 5 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Thank you very much. That's the kind of speaker that I like. Go right ahead, sir.
Okay, if we could have the PowerPoint quickly.
When the PowerPoint commences.
Okay.
That's the right one.
Okay.
No?
Yes. Okay.
There we go. Clock
Okay.
beginning.
Were the recommendations for FY25 of the Community Preservation Committee. Flip to the next slide. As we said, our current total fund balance is about $7 million. We have $10 million encumbered for approved projects, which would leave us with approximately $7 million in undesignated funds that would be available. Projected FY25 funds are about $3.7 million, which would make our total available about $10 million for this year. You can flip to the next page. We're going to skip this because of the Recplex funding. We're going to go to the projects. As you can see, we're recommending projects in the amount of $2.4 million. And they fall into three categories. We have two affordable housing projects, generators for the Housing Authority, study this year and they'll be purchased next year. The rehabilitation with Bread and Roses of 14 to 16 Brown Court for affordable housing as well. $480,000 for the 1836 Meeting House, AK also known as where North Parish is. $150,000 for Stevens Estate Stables. $210,000 for replacement of the bandstand on the Common. $21,000 for tree work at Patriots Park. And $983,900 for Lake Chickawick access. We can scroll through quickly. That's essentially our projects for this year, plus $50,000 for administrative costs. Any questions?
So let's move to recommendations first. One moment. We'll move to recommendations. We have a recommendation from the Select Board.
Yes, the Select Board recommended favorable action.
Thank you. Recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Favorable action.
Favorable. And do we have queries? Please, ma'am.
Hello, Carolyn Zimmer, 135 South Bradford Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. Since the rec place failed, is there room and do you have alternative projects that you didn't put forth to us where we might amend this and be able to support another project?
Thank you for your question.
No, we didn't have any projects that we didn't include because of cost this year.
I see no other. Yes, sir, please.
Joe Reardon again, 62 Parker Street. When the Recplex was in this, it required a two-thirds vote because of bonding. Is that still the case?
It will not require a two-thirds vote.
Correct.
Thank you for inquiring. I would make that clear. Do we have any questions in the cafeteria? No. Thank you. And do we have any queries or comments in the field house?
No questions from the field house.
Okay, and there do not appear to be any more here. Looks like we can move to a vote. The vote now only requires a simple majority to pass the amended, which means the Recplex is not in the mix. All those in favor, please raise your voting card. Okay, thank you very much. All those opposed, please raise your voting card. Thank you. I can report a near unanimous vote in the auditorium. Cafeteria, please.
Same. Near unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Fooey. And Mr. Hanson?
Unanimous vote in the gymnasium.
Unanimous vote. Thank you. The article passes. We've had three items of particular interest and import: our budget, the Recplex, and now MBTA zoning. Unless there is objection, I'm going to use my prerogative and, while we're all here in the rooms, move to Article 28. Is there objection? I hear none. Thank you very, very much. Article 28. Do I hear a motion for Article 28?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I would move to adopt Article 28 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. Thank you very much. And we will move to two short presentations. Mr. Goldberg, if you'd come to the room. Attorney Goldberg, Chair of the Planning Board, will give us up to 8 minutes once he commences, please. And then immediately thereafter, Mr. Strauss will give us 2 minutes from the microphone on the floor.
Mr. Moderator, do we have...
We'll put up the presentation first, and then we'll start the clock. This is our technology gremlin meeting, everybody. still looking for the presentation for Article 28. That's it?
Yeah. Okay, great.
Counselor.
Thank you. Eitan Goldberg, 125 Sawmill Road, Chair of the Planning Board. So the MBTA Communities Act, which is Mass General Law 40A, Chapter 3, was passed in 2021 by the Baker administration. It's coming now to us after rules and regulations were passed through the state. It applies to all cities and towns that have MBTA transit stops or are bordering communities. There are requirements of the zoning. We must zone for multifamily housing to be allowed as of right. No age restrictions can be placed on that, nor can there be restrictions on the number of bedrooms. It must be able to accommodate 15 units per acre. It also has to be at least 50 acres, 25 of which have to be contiguous, which means together, and every district has to be at least 5 acres. So one of the points that we may discuss tonight is that we could we just do MBTA communities with 50 acres, and why are we proposing almost 90 acres? The reason for that, I can tell you and can talk about as the night goes on, is that if you were to do it on a smaller lot of, say, 50 acres, we are also required to, by our calculations of how many of our housing supply, to have approximately 1,200 units, and we couldn't do 15 units per acre. In fact, it would have to be at 50, the numbers, to get to 15 units an acre, we have to do at least 80 acres to be zoned for. Zoning district is encouraged by state law to have reasonable access to transit, and it the law requires we create a zoning district. It does not require any housing to be built in any of the districts. There is no requirement that housing of any kind actually be built. It just needs to be allowed, and it needs to be allowed as of right. What is an adjacent community? Well, that's us, again, 50 acres, minimum 15 units per acre, and we have to have the ability to create almost 1,200 units. Public engagement. So this did go through a lengthy period of public engagement beginning back in 2022. There were some forums asking members of the public to comment about where they'd like to see potential zones, providing education. And more recently, actually in July of 2023, there was a joint meeting of the Select Board and the Planning Board. At that time, planning staff from the town as well as the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission had analyzed locations in town and come up with 3 potential options that they believed would meet the state's requirements. Those were at the Market Basket Plaza, on Sutton Street near downtown, and at Osgood Landing. Those sites were discussed at this joint meeting. At that meeting, members of the planning board said, these are some good suggestions, but we'd like you to come back and actually present us more sites. Give us kind of everywhere in town, let us talk about additional sites. At a later July 2023 meeting, the planning board discussed other sites, and throughout this process then came to the conclusion that the 2 sites being proposed were the best solution. There were public hearings conducted from February through May, and I would say throughout the process there was very little alternatives, if any, proposed by members of the public other than the 2 sites that we're discussing tonight. There were recommendations made by the boards for unanimous favorable action from the Select Board and the Planning Board. I'd say that's important just because in the past when we've had difficult zoning decisions, when we've come before you in terms of Royal Crest and the marijuana facility and even Amazon, there have been vigorous debate and there have been split decisions of these boards, which is great. It shows that there are a variety of different backgrounds and kind of decisions being put into place, but these recommendations were unanimous. Oh, I skipped one, sorry. Okay, factors in considering the potential districts. acreage. We have to have, not only does it have to be 50 acres, but the state will take away areas that are not developable and won't count them in the calculation. Want it to be, as a matter of planning, proximate to transit access and Route 495. Expanded walkability and pedestrian access, access to commercial centers in alignment with master plan. These are, again, good planning perspectives. So those were factors that were considered in addition to the technical aspects of the requirements from the state. Two proposed districts are the North Andover Mall, 350 Winthrop Avenue, and 1600 Osgood Street, which is Osgood Landing, and you can see those on the screens. What we are proposing are overlay districts, so we are not proposing to change the underlying zoning in these areas. That means that if someone wanted to build at North Andover Mall, the things that they are allowed to do now, they'd still be allowed to do now. Same with at Osgood Landing, which has a 40R, which is a residential, it has business, it has different things that are overlays that are currently allowed. All of those things would still be allowed. This would allow additional uses as part of this MBTA zoning that could be used should someone wish to do so. The North Andover Mall is a 33-acre district. I think most of us are familiar with Market Basket, Kohl's, a couple of restaurants, salon, a couple of other retail and service businesses, bookshop, which is a great addition to the mall. It is obviously close to 114, close to the highway, served by a MIVA bus route, and is kind of on as a gateway to the town, and potential building there aligns with the master plan. I will tell you, and most of you probably know, that recently Market Basket did come to the planning board for a site plan modification where they proposed to move the Market Basket and Kohl's, swap places, and that's a 2 to 3 year project that is just starting out. Osgood Landing, you're familiar with this, in front of where Amazon is now built, a 58-acre district. So originally has been envisioned to accommodate housing. There's been a 40R, which is a housing allowing district with certain incentives. It was put into place in 2007. No housing has yet come for permitting or construction or really been proposed there, but that exists today. It's close to 495, close to commerce, obviously with Amazon. MIVA bus route does go there, and it aligns with master plan. Permitted uses, all underlying zoning districts are allowed. These are some of the permitted uses. Our bylaw does have an inclusionary zoning component, so it would require 15% affordable housing, which is in line with our current inclusionary zoning bylaw. These are the parameters of the proposed districts. If people have questions about them, we can definitely go into those. But what they need to do is we need to make it so that it complies with the bylaw to allow for that certain number of units
Does
to
the
potentially
gentleman need
build.
another minute or two?
About 2 minutes if I could, Mr. Moderator.
I will allow.
These are communities that have taken votes. The list might not be up to date, as there were some votes taken this week. As I understand it, about 60 towns have said yes, about 10 towns have said no. It's about 80 cities and towns. It's about 85% currently. But with more to vote, including us tonight, and more to vote coming up in the next month or two. What happens if we don't comply? This is a state law. The state law actually says that we are not eligible for certain grants, so it's not discretionary. If we don't have a compliant bylaw, we are not eligible for housing choice. We're not eligible for MassWorks, which is what helped fund the Amazon project. And there's another grant, forgetting off the top of my head, that we're not eligible for. And then we're also maybe put at the bottom of the pile for certain discretionary grants, and the Attorney General's office has indicated that they may take legal action. In recent years, we've accessed almost $7 million in funding from the programs that we may either be ineligible for or less competitive for. Again, we heard some discussion earlier about the economic state that we're in, and it would be problematic, I would say, to lose access to grant funding. Some FAQs, how many units have to be built? 0, none have to be built. These two areas, we cannot say for sure that nothing would be built if zoning goes in. developers have the right to build, but these are chosen in a way that we believe these sites would be unlikely to be built in the near future. If there was a desire for immediate housing, this would not be the sites that really would be chosen. Are there any plans that have been presented for building at either residential buildings at either of these proposed districts? No. And is there a requirement for affordable housing in this bylaw? The answer is yes. And that is the presentation and can definitely answer questions.
Thank you. Bingo on the time. I appreciate it a great deal. Mr. Strauss has a report from the Master Plan Implementation Committee, an analysis more accurately. 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jonathan Strauss, 23 Old Farm Road, current chair of the town's Master Plan Implementation Committee. In advance of town meeting, the town's Master Plan Implementation Committee prepared an analysis of the proposed zoning amendment with regard to whether or not it aligned with relevant strategies in the town's 2018 Master Plan. The committee undertook this analysis after receiving positive feedback from both the Select Board and Planning Board. The committee is charged, our committee is charged with tracking educating the public about and aiding the advancement of the recommendations as set forth in the master plan. Consistent with our established methods, the committee evaluated the evaluation process focused on identifying the particular strategies in the master plan that it found applicable to the proposed zoning amendment before you. Of the 103 as stated in the master plan, we found 11 strategies that were applicable to this zoning amendment. Of those 11, we centered on determining if adoption of the zoning bylaw amendment would have a positive, negative, or neutral effect on fulfilling the goals in question, and those were based on a strictly objective analysis of the information. We determined that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment will have a positive impact with regard to achieving 8 of the stated strategies in the master plan. One of the strategies was found to be negatively impacted, and that was strictly the master plan calls for simplifying the town zoning, and obviously this would not do that. The 2 remaining strategies that we identified that were applicable here, we termed neutral, neither positive nor negative at this time. However, should this zoning be adopted, there's a potential down the road for those 2 to be positively affected. So it's...
Final sentence or 2, sir?
One last paragraph. It is important to note that the committee is not making a determination on whether or not it is for or against the proposed zoning amendment. Rather, it's our committee's intention strictly to evaluate the amendments as currently proposed and determine if they fall in line with the master plan that was created in part to guide future development in the town.
Thank you very much. The Select Board has a recommendation to make, and as I understand it, 2 short presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We would like to begin by commending the Planning Board along with town staff and consultant MVPC for doing a tremendous amount of due diligence, planning, and analysis on developing the proposed MBTA Multifamily Housing Overlay District, a process that began in 2022 and stretched over more than 17 public meetings, resulting in both the Planning Board and Select Board unanimously voting to recommend favorable action on Article 28. Given that in 2021, the Baker administration signed the MBTA communities legislation into law, tonight we are faced with the decision of whether or not to approve a well-thought-out district location and bylaw, which will bring our town into compliance with the state law. The locations that the planning board selected for compliance are along primary corridors with access to existing mass transit lines and close in proximity to commercial areas in Route 495. The town has not been presented with any development proposals for these sites, but if housing is ever proposed at either location, the planning board will have purview over the development plan review process requiring third-party review for traffic impacts, stormwater, and other issues pertinent to development. The zoning also includes provisions that include our inclusionary blind zoning requirements, which include multifamily developments to set aside 15% as affordable. We know that some have questioned why the town is proposing the overlay over 2 areas when it could comply with just Osgood Landing. The reason is because we listened intently to public feedback during the process of Royal Crest. We heard at that time that there was too much density in one concentrated area being proposed. We appreciate that the planning board worked diligently with the town staff to spread the proposed MBTA communities over 2 areas so that we could reduce the density required. We will be at the minimum of the state's minimum density requirements of 15 units, and this is lower than all recent multifamily developments that have been approved by town meeting and built in North Andover. 59 other communities in the Commonwealth, including our neighbors in Andover and Haverhill, have chosen to comply with the MBTA communities, as opposed to the 10 communities that will be tied up in costly litigation, and the state will forego millions of dollars in needed funding. I'll now pass it off to Brian Roach, my colleague, to speak about the consequences.
The gentleman has 2 minutes as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Town meeting is the legislative body of our community and has the power to determine if North Andover will comply with this law. As such, it's imperative that we cover both the process that got us here as well as the potential ramifications of failing to pass this article. Chair Bates addressed the process. I'd like to address the consequences, primarily the loss of state grants. We're proud of the work the town has done in seeking out and obtaining a wide array of grants. In fact, since 2017, we've been awarded nearly $7 million to complete major infrastructure projects throughout town, notably a new sewer connection supporting the construction of Amazon's new facility. The investment from the state helped spur Amazon to invest $2.3 million of its own money into that project. This facility will provide more than 1,500 jobs and over $85 million in new revenue to the town over 20 years. Additionally, a host of new sidewalks, intersections, signals, and paving for much-needed improvements in public safety have come through grants. Some of these projects are not yet completed and be in jeopardy if state funding is lost. Looking ahead, there are many projects that the town is pursuing that are only viable with state support. These projects include streetscape improvements in downtown, a shared use path between Main Street and High Street, acquiring open space for preservation and recreation, and examining and implementing critical solutions to flood risks along the Kachikawick River. Grant funding has tremendous power to impact the quality of life in our community by improving public infrastructure and attracting private investment far beyond the face value of the grants themselves. The Attorney General's office has already declared that it will force compliance through the courts, a process that will take considerable time and resources. We agree that towns should have the right to decide their future for themselves, and that is a decision before all of us tonight. If we fight this law and lose, we may lose the control that we've already exercised about the location and makeup of these overlay districts. We encourage North Andover to take a measured approach by not jeopardizing its status with the state. Other towns have chosen to fight. Let them bear that risk. If the Supreme Judicial Court ultimately declares this law to be unconstitutional, that will apply to North Andover as well. We can always choose to rescind the zoning at a future town meeting, and we'll have risked nothing to do so. For those and many other reasons, we strongly urge and support passage of Article 28.
Thank you very much. Do we have a recommendation from the Planning Board?
Mr. Moderator, the recommendation was favorable action.
Thank you very much. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Yes, the Finance Committee also recommends favorable action.
Okay. We are ready to move to questions and appropriate comments. Anybody here in this room wish to commence?
C.J. Ganji, 53 Chestnut Street.
Welcome.
Mr. Moderator, 3 years ago we proposed a development moratorium which earned over 58% of the vote at town meeting. 2 years ago, we resoundingly defeated the massive Royal Crest redevelopment with 68% of the vote. The message of the citizens of this town have been sending has been crystal clear. We are building too much, too fast, and we need to stop. I'm here tonight to express that sentiment again. We have until December 31st to comply with this law. Voting no tonight will not lose us any grant money. What it will do is give this town time to see how other towns are meeting this mandate in ways that present the absolute minimum impact to their already overdeveloped communities. There are nearly 106 communities in this state that have not voted on this yet. The last 3 weeks of town meetings across the state have showed us that there are other ways to tackle this problem. Many communities are overlaying this district over already existing or already permitted developments. These plans have been approved by the state. This is the direction our town should be taking. Instead of expanding residential zoning across 2 large commercial parcels, which are vital to our economic base. It's also important to remember, tonight we are voting on future development. This will create 1,300 units by right. It will be nearly impossible to rescind this if the law changes. We just saw a vote that needed 2/3 to pass. It didn't pass. It is very difficult to rescind zoning once it's in place. So I'm asking that we vote no on this article tonight so that we can come back at a later time prior to the deadline with a better plan for this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Bill Callahan, 23 Lyman Road, speaking in my capacity as a citizen on this issue. We're here tonight an example of democracy in action at town meeting. I would also argue that there's been a lot of democracy going on for 22 months in this town over several meetings where input would be very valuable and will bring new issues to light. And that's what we want in this debate, is new issues being brought to light at a time when the solutions can be carefully crafted and take that information in and create better plans. What we see here tonight is a late, last-minute campaign that is more about heat, histrionics, and hysteria than elucidating the major issues that we need to face as a town. And what I ask my fellow citizens to do tonight is to carefully consider this and realize that right now we have a vote with consequences that would be extremely deleterious to our town, and this is not the time to roll the dice and have folks with an agenda designed against development at a statewide level to do that to our town and have our town feel those effects. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Wayne Gendron, 134 Berkeley Road, and I just have a question. It may have been answered, and I may not have understood it.
Let's try to help.
If we voted for this overlay district, who has the authority to review possible development of that district? Where is that existing in the town?
Good question. I think the chair of the planning board can help us.
Yep, I didn't get your name, but thank you for the question. It would go to the planning board, so while this is by right development, we set it up in such a way that it calls for plan, so that if someone were to come up and want to develop under this bylaw, they'd have to say, okay, I'm choosing to go under the overlay and choose this bylaw. They would then have to present plans to the planning board, which can be reviewed for basically everything under site plan. Traffic, parking, heights, setbacks, stormwater, all of those things would have to come back for the planning board as part of a plan review process.
Okay, thank you. And then my follow-up question to that
To me, sir.
I'm sorry?
Questions to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator. My follow-up question to that is, so the responsibility then lies with the planning board. Would a potential development at all come back to the voter, or is that, has that, in terms of another development coming in, or is that...
we get your question.
Yeah, is that forestalled?
Totally fair.
Not if it was in these two parcels. No, a plan proposed, if it meets zoning, would come to the planning board. If it didn't meet zoning, it might have to go to the ZBA for things, but it would have to go to the planning board for plan review. The only way that something comes back to town meeting would be if there was an amendment of the bylaw, which can happen. So one of the things that you could do is we could be in compliance with a yes vote tonight, and if there are other locations that would be preferable, even though nothing's ever really been mentioned about other specific ones, if you wanted to do a different one and look at that, you could, and you could come back and vote on different ones. If it still just switching out the locations, you could do that. That would come back to town meeting.
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Moderator.
very welcome.
That answered my question.
You're very welcome. Sir.
Stan Novak, 26 Pembroke Road. Two very quick questions. One, in 2018, when we passed the new senior center, they said they would be building 8 housing units. When I drive by the airport, that looks like a lot more than 8 housing units. So can somebody define for me what a housing unit is? Because when I hear housing unit, I think apartment. What is a unit?
A unit can be an apartment, it can be a house, it can be a townhouse. Any of those qualify.
What about an apartment building?
Questions to me.
Is an apartment building considered one unit?
No.
Okay, because the airport looks like a lot more than 8.
The airport, it is a lot more than 8. I'm not sure where that 8 number comes from.
It was a town meeting when we passed it. Second question. Charlie Parker did not pass this all on his own. It went through the state legislature. So I would like to know from our state reps how they voted on this. Do they support it? Why do they support it? Or if they do not support it, why do they not support it?
I can share with you that this was voted prior to any of our state representative from this community being elected. So
they could still
no
overturn
influence.
it, though.
Excuse me?
They could have another vote and overturn it. If enough communities oppose it, they can get rid of it.
I'm just trying to answer your question.
That's fine.
If that person is in the room and wishes to answer that question, we'll give her that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we'll go here to the left. I'm sorry, would you care to? Okay, we have a motion of privilege. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Adrienne Ramos, 115 Winter Street,
Welcome.
and also one of the 2 state representatives for North Andover, but the only one who does reside in town. As Mr. Moderator pointed out, I was not in office at the time this was voted on, but I can tell you from speaking with my colleagues that it is highly unlikely that this would be revoked or rescinded by any legislation currently or in the future. In fact, there is no bill pending to revoke this at this time that has seen the light of day. And as far as where I stand, I am in support of this article this evening.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me, sir. You'll be silent. Go right ahead, ma'am.
I was asked where, I believe I was asked where I stand, and I do stand in support
You were so asked.
of this article. As the Select Board so eloquently pointed out, there are multiple millions of dollars at stake here. What we are voting on tonight is not to overrule or reject this law. It is law. It is not our job to determine whether we're going to implement it, but how we're going to implement it. We have seen already, as Mr. Moderator and others have pointed out, or sorry, not Mr. Moderator, that this has been brought to bear on towns such as Milton. I do believe we will see that come against other towns as this continues. And when you look at where we're at today and what we've seen with our budget, we cannot afford to lose approximately $1 million in grants. And I will point out that in our recent Chapter 90 bill that was just passed, over $350 million were put aside for future capital improvements for roads and streets and projects like that throughout the Commonwealth.
Thank you very much. We'll take one more question here in the room, and then we'll go to the other rooms, if you don't mind. Please.
Lauren Kennedy, 16 Woodbury Lane.
Welcome.
Thank you. Not only am I a resident of North Andover, I work here in the Mills, and my 3.5-year-old will go to the public schools when he's old enough. My husband and I plan for our home here to be our forever home. We care deeply about our town, our parks, our trails, our community, and our charm. The MBTA community zoning change is required by the state, and by working with the state, we will still have the ability to review any multifamily housing to make sure it maintains the quality that North Andover deserves. As a reminder, this was almost unanimously a bipartisan vote in the House and Senate in 2021 with a Republican governor. Let's vote yes to do what's right for our town, to give us the most hands-on solution and not fall victim to scare tactics of a false mega development on a property that has absolutely no development bids today and may never be developed by a multifamily complex.
Thank you. Questions? Questions take priority. We'll go to the cafeteria. Are there any queries or commentary in the cafeteria?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, we have commentary.
We'll welcome such comment now.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have a comment and a question. Michael Liss, I reside at 30 Leanne Drive. I am the Vice Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals, but I'm speaking as a private citizen, and my views don't reflect those of any board. All right, North Andover, it's time for some real talk. The MBTA's Communities Act was designed to create more housing. This article does not do that. As someone who wants to see housing in North Andover, this article is carefully calibrated to minimize the chances of new housing while obeying the law. It zones some of the likely land to be redeveloped in lots that are on the very edge of town. It is astonishing to me that the state would agree to that, but our boards have gotten reapproved by the state. Those who don't want construction should be championing this, and people like me, frankly, should be against it. But I'm voting for it because I don't want this town in a protracted fight or to lose out on millions in state funding. Those opposed so concerned about shaking off another 1% chance of development that they've lost sight of how unfriendly this article really is. My question for the moderator is this: if we try to change this article and bring it back in the fall, what happens to our pre-approval? What are the chances that whatever we come up with in the next few months will eventually be rejected by the state?
Let's see if we can endeavor to get an answer for you.
The pre-approval would be gone. Whether we could so the pre-approval process involved coming up with our bylaw, going through the whole, through that process, and it's a very technical process with the numbers, putting that all together, sending that to the state. They have 90 days to review it. They took 90 days to review it. Then it came back with 8 to 10 points of clarity and things that we needed to either clean up or just questions that they had. They did give us the pre-approval, but that would be gone. And if we took the time and the cost of a special town meeting in the fall, we would not have any assurances that we would be in compliance.
And I think the town manager has some further context.
I was just going to agree that we have been told that there would not be time to do a pre-approval.
Is there any other commentary or question in the cafeteria?
Yes, Town Moderator.
Let's do one more, and then we'll move to the gymnasium and then go around the horn again.
William Coleman, 56 Great Pond Road.
Welcome.
My question is this, is that I know we've dealt with these mandates from the state as far as density and housing and other things. And I guess my point is that I'm not against the plan itself. I'm really, though, would really like our leadership, and I'd like to ask a question of leadership. What are you doing to abate what's going on in our town currently with the over access of all the strain that's been put on this town as far as travel, crowding, sewers, water, other things? So what's the plan? And everybody says, oh, nobody's going to develop this. Well, you and I both know, if you've been around this town long enough, someone's going to develop it. So I want to know what you're doing about access points, what you're doing about roads, what your planning is to make sure that this does not affect the quality of life in this town, because you're not doing a very good job of that. When it takes you 20 minutes or 50 minutes to get from Mass Avenue to 495, you're not doing your job. So that's my concern here, is I just want some thinking in this town about the infrastructure and what we need to do to maintain what we currently have.
Thank you, sir. We'll try to get an answer for you as much as clarity will allow from the question. Anybody?
Can I have one part?
Sure.
So not a elected town leader, but you'll notice that we're an adjacent community. When this law was first enacted and the regulations were going into place, we were actually going to have more units, but our town leadership and our state reps went and fought for us and said, hey, we don't actually have a T in here. Can we look at that? And our numbers actually went down. So in terms of just this bylaw, our leadership did take action to make the burden less. We still have a burden, but they did take action to make it less. part of the process, we did, at least at the planning board level, say, hey, this seems kind of unfair because we've created all this housing. Shouldn't we get a credit for it, right? Shouldn't our percentage include what we've already put into place and is coming online? We were told no. So, some of these questions have been asked, I can't answer to necessarily the traffic and some of the other stuff, other than some of the grant funding you may be putting at risk is for traffic and roads and open space and things like that. But those kind of actions were taken, at least to try to make inroads in what we would have to do.
I think we have a lot of clarity there. We'll move on now. Does anybody in the field house have a question or non-duplicative comment?
There is no question or comment from the field house.
Thank you very much. We'll stay in this room now for a moment. Sir, to the right.
Norman Hawley, 45 Boston Street, 20-year resident of North Andover, nearly 60-year resident of the Commonwealth. And my family's been kicking around New England since the 30s, 1630s, thank you. In the early 80s, I was part of a building committee in Swampscott. It had 7 acres of land. Fast forward 40 years, the town of Swampscott has reneged on that agreement that they had for that 7 acres, and it now in the tens of millions of dollars in litigation between the two parties trying to resolve the problem that they have created by reneging on that agreement they had.
I'd ask you to stay centered on the question in front of us, sir.
So I can only imagine how much money in litigation would be done if we vote this down, as Milton's going to find out and all the other towns. And it's going to be far more than the $21 million we would have spent on the Recplex.
Thank you, sir.
Bob Malik, 585 Dale Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to say the unpopular thing here. So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts passes a law, and they say if you don't abide by it, we're going to fine you, we're going to withhold funds. To me, that sounds like extortion. And let's just take a look around the Commonwealth and let's see what our great leadership has done. Let's look at the old soldiers' home in Chelsea. Let's see what they did there. Let's look at the Norfolk Correction Center, what they're doing over there. Let's take a look at all the hotels on the Cape that aren't occupied. Let's take a look where the Commonwealth comes in and exercises their muscle upon us. Now, we're all worried about litigation and what fines or what funds might be withheld for us. Not one of you has mentioned what the long-term cost might be. When, as sure as I'm standing here, we know what's going to come in on the heels of Massachusetts threats and intimidation if we acquiesce to them. And even if we don't, they're going to do it to us anyways. Every time you folks send out your mailers to us, vote for me. I'll fight for you, all of you. I've seen your beautiful mailers in my phone, my mailbox.
Sir, stay.
I apologize, Mr. Moderator.
Quite all right.
Do what you say you're going to do on those cards. Fight for us, please. I'm begging you.
Folks, we have a lot of people standing. We're also a little bit later in the evening. So with your acquiescence, I'm going to cut off the line. Hope that everybody gets the opportunity to, hope that everybody gets the opportunity to speak. We'll try to be truly non-duplicative. Sir.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Eli Adler-Roth, he, him. I live at 114 Beverly Street. I am speaking today about the massive housing crisis that is affecting our state. I've stood up at town meeting before and talked about my experience as a social worker working with survivors of domestic violence. On a weekly basis, I talk with survivors who tell me that they would like to leave their abusive partner. They cannot because they have nowhere to go. This is why 92% of women who are homeless right now have experienced some form of gender-based violence in their lifetime. 92%. So, I know that might not move people. You don't want housing. You're worried about class size. Okay, good news. Single bedroom apartments and studio apartments do not add to class size. They add revenue in the form of property taxes and people who spend money here. You also, curiously, don't see a lot of people talking or advocating for a halt on construction of single-family homes, which is interesting. So, look, you don't like housing? Fine. That's fine. Work with your legislator. Don't break the law. Don't put our children's education dollars at risk. in the form of grants, in the form of lawsuits. And I guess I'll just end with a question for Mr. Moderator, if there are any lawyers on stage, does a fine for not playing a law constitute extortion?
I'll take that as a rhetorical question. Sir.
Hi, Mr. Moderator. Adam Bagney, 92 Colonial
Welcome.
Avenue. Member of the Community Preservation Committee here as a citizen. You know, as frustrating as it is to hear this misinformation about those encouraging a no vote on this, it's incredibly ironic. And that's because if you don't want this multifamily housing in your neighborhood, then you should vote yes on this article. The truth is, this is a zoning exercise required by state law that ensures we continue to receive millions of dollars in state funding for a wide variety of projects and services. There's no plan, secret or otherwise, for a mega development. And frankly, any housing development in these two areas we're talking about, Market Basket and Amazon, isn't likely. And even if a housing proposal comes forward down the road and it survives another round of scrutiny by our town boards, it'll be located off state roads on the edge of town, not in anyone's single-family neighborhood. I repeat, it is impossible for anything to be built in your neighborhood as a result of this article. So this argument that this would in any way change the character of our town is completely ridiculous. But all that being said, the heart of this issue is whether we think people who don't live in single-family homes deserve to live in our town. Does the elderly couple who needs to downsize? Does the single mom who's a waitress at Jamie's? Do the teachers, their assistants who teach our kids? Does the janitor that's going to clean up here after we're done, do they deserve to live in our town? We're in a well-documented statewide housing crisis, and a strong community requires a variety of contributors so we all have the services we need. And in North Andover, we take care of our neighbors. And making sure that they have somewhere to live is an important way to do that. People should vote yes.
We're getting late. I suspect that we're probably close to ready for a vote. I will allow questions and one-minute statements henceforth. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Alex Fugue, 517 Ray Street. Several questions. First, the first gentleman to speak said that this would require that multiple housing units be built. Is this a requirement, or is this allow the option to?
Nothing has to be built. It just has to be zoned to allow for building.
Thank you. Second question. Are there currently any offers or plans to build anything that this zoning law addresses?
In these two districts?
In these two districts.
Not that we're aware of.
Okay. Are there any idea or estimates of how many housing units would be built in these zoning complexes in the next 10 years?
It allows for 1,200.
But not allows. How many do you think will actually be built?
I have no idea.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, sir. I'm going to move on. I appreciate your very well thought out questions.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Sir.
My name is Hunter Sasonis.
Come to the microphone.
My name is Hunter Sasonis. I'm a freshman at North Andover High School.
Welcome.
And I reside at 1514 Salem Street. Although I'm not old enough to vote at town meeting, I would like to voice my support for Article 28. Last year, when I was a student in Mr. McGravy's 8th grade civics class at NAMS, my final project was about increasing access to public transportation, specifically the MBTA's commuter rail. It was through this project that I first became aware of the MBTA Communities Act recently enacted by the legislature. In the last week or so, I've seen lawn signs around town opposing mega development. This is fear-mongering, and I worry that if voters reject the zoning plan that is being put forth tonight, that our town could lose a substantial amount of money from the state. Given the current situation with the school department budget, we cannot afford to lose any funding or risk expensive lawsuits. It is very upsetting that certain residents in our town are willing to further burden our schools in the name of NIMBY values. Furthermore, the proposed zoning would not create any mega developments. The two locations being zoned tonight are already developed. Do you think that Market Basket or Amazon would just tear down their buildings just to build apartment complexes? When I hear people saying that we need to
save
our town from apartments, I wonder if they will ever save our students or save our schools from underfunding, or they will oppose that too. To help protect the future of our town, I urge everyone to vote in favor of Article 28.
Thank you very much. 1 minute, query or statement.
Marcia Finkelstein, 2104 Harvest Drive. Just full disclosure, I'm a member of the Housing Authority here, and I am speaking as a citizen, not in my capacity as a commissioner. I just wanted to thank everyone in this room and all the other rooms for expressing themselves and participating in our democracy. I am for this, and I think it's really important for us to kind of take a step back and just realize that no one's going mega development crazy. We're just here to follow the law, and we had an overwhelming negative, we don't want to spend all this money on a megaplex for the schools, yet we want to put ourselves at risk for over $1 million of consequences. So I just want to remind us that, like, if we really are trying to be fiscally responsible here, the only thing to do is to vote yes for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand that we have a question or a comment in the field house.
Hi, Chloe Doe, Putnam Road. Are these two locations concrete, or is there further evaluation? If we vote yes tonight, can we look at other locations down the road? Is there leeway to change the locations?
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Sorry, I forgot my other question.
Okay, thank you for your
that's
query, and I think we can get an answer for that.
This zoning bylaw can be amended, so if this was enacted and we were in compliance, there's nothing that prevents us from coming back and substituting districts, as long as the math still works. You'd have to make the math still work out. So as long as it's still the 50 acres, the 15 units per acre, all of that, as long as the math still works out, yes, you could substitute. And I would just say, it's like, the best time to look for a job is when you already have a job. The best time to look for different options is when you're in compliance with state law. So.
Sir, to the right.
Kevin Martin, 136 Old Farm Road. Tonight we focused on preserving land and preserving conservation funds to protect land. During the Rexplex debate, someone argued using Barker Farm would be a better use of that investment because it's open land. Meanwhile, the town is trying to present parcels of land that are financially prohibitive for developers to come in and develop, right? Whereas the state wants shovel-ready pieces of land that they could come in and develop immediately. Our shared concern is if it gets zoned as MBTA, it doesn't come back in front of town meeting. They can just build and go in front of the planning committee. So my question is, if we vote no and the state sues us and wins, they're likely to choose a piece of land that is more shovel-ready, such as a farm. If the state wins and comes back and chooses a farm, does that plan come in front of town meeting, or are they ready to move forward?
Thank you. We'll try to get that answer for you as best as known.
I don't know the answer, and I don't really want to find out.
I appreciate that. To the left.
Mr. Moderator, Brian Gross, Settlers Ridge Road.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Two quick questions. In the diligence of the buildability of these lots, just wanted to verify that the drainage to the spigot or the Shushing River was accounted for in the 100-year plan at the Market Basket location, and the height of the buildings was accounted for in the approach to the airport in the calculation of the units on that lot.
You'll have to repeat the first part. The second part, it would be, it's under FAA regulation, and we did it. It's smaller than, I think, the Princeton.
Okay.
That would work out. What was the first question?
The first one is the drainage of the runoff of the creek, which I think drains into the Shushing River. Has that been accounted for in the 100-year plan for flood?
So that would be part of the plan process. So it wouldn't, since these are just districts that allow for zoning, the only effect that might have is what areas might be able to count it in terms of how big your acreage is. So in terms of that, it's counted. Where they could actually build, it's not accounted for in the district itself, but it's accounted for in the plan because they would have to meet all the stormwater regulations that we set out.
Okay, thank you.
So that would only come into play in the building phase,
Thank you very much, sir.
if there was one.
Brad Mustaine, 27 Coachman's Lane. I'm a member of the
Welcome.
North Andover Conservation Commission. I am not speaking on their behalf. I'm speaking as a private citizen to address that last concern on the 100-year storm. That will come before me, and yes, I will make sure that it does not exceed the existing condition. On another point that I heard, the lawmakers that we elected to the state legislature making laws and then enforcing them is kind of their job. It's not extortion. I just want to say, please don't shoot our community in the foot and vote this down. What you've got is an excellent compromise of the different interests here. We don't want development, and we've got a proposal that limits that as much as it's allowed by state legislature. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Andy Tarsi, 88 Johnson Street.
Welcome.
I wanted to say three things about this conversation tonight. The first is that neighbors are here who are on both sides, including myself. And the thing that we need to accomplish tonight, more than anything else, is that we remain neighbors and friends and community, and that we not create an environment out of any of these hot button issues like we might do, like some towns are doing, that pushes us apart, pits us against each other, makes us uncomfortable
Here,
being
sir.
around each other, sharing our spaces together. But I do have an opinion, and it might not be the same as my neighbors. I believe we are in a housing crisis in this state that is driving people away, and there's a reason that the entire business community in Massachusetts is supporting implementation and a yes vote on things like this. It's because it's getting harder and harder to hire people who can afford to stay here, and we need housing desperately. It's a huge issue for the economy. The third issue, and my last,
Final sentence.
is that there is innuendo in the room about, and someone said literally, you know what's coming. And I feel very frightened, as President Kennedy alluded to America as a nation of immigrants. I feel very nervous about what it is people are actually imagining and afraid of, because the affordability standard, the idea of apartments, these are just abstractions. And if someone is filling in
Thank
that
you, sir.
blank with people that they're afraid of or don't want to share the town with, we
Sir,
really
your
need to
point is
hear
made.
more
Sir,
about that and
your point
put
is
that
well-
to rest.
Sir, your point is well made. I
Thank you very
for
much.
The privilege.
Hello, my name is Caleb Roden. I live at 13 Perry Street.
Welcome.
And, thank you.
My neighbor.
So I'm just going to voice my opinion. I feel like all the overdevelopment in this town is killing the hometown feeling. It's just a bunch of overdevelopment, like over near China Blossom. It's just like, I feel like what this is doing is trying to make North Andover a city more than the town of North Andover. But my one question is, how will this affect the infrastructure and the water and sewage costs that can far outweigh any of the grants and funds we may or may not get accepted?
We'll try to get an answer to that. Thank you.
So a couple things. One, again, there's no requirement that anything actually be built. Two, the planning process accounts for all of the review of stormwater and things like that. And as I've stood up here many times over the last 7 or 8 years, the financial benefits we found of apartments, not as to whether you like them or dislike them or changing the feel, the actual financial benefits outweigh the costs.
Thank you very much. Before we go to the last question in this room or comment, do we have anything in the field house or the cafeteria?
Mr. Moderator, we have one comment in the cafeteria.
Happy to hear it, please.
Ralph Wilbur, 27 Marble Ridge Road.
Welcome.
What I say will take more than 1 minute, so I'll just comment.
You'll have 1 minute, sir.
That there are 18 cities and towns that are fighting this law on a constitutional basis, and I think we should join them, because it's not up for Big Brother and the government to be just telling us what to do in local zone and houses we build and where we put them. That's it.
Thank you very much. Are there any other Questions or comments in the cafeteria or the field house?
Yes, there's another one in the CAF. Is that time for that?
Yes, there is. Please.
Hi, thank you. My name is Ryan Hawks, also at 27 Marble Ridge Road. So
Welcome.
I've been hearing a lot tonight about I think some of it is rational, I think some of it is irrational. I'm concerned about doing what the state legislature wants, but I'm also concerned about hearing as a citizen and a taxpayer, my government is going to come after me and sue me because I happen to have concerns about the proposal. I'm not for it. I have legitimate concerns. Those are fair. And I can't imagine that Representative Ramos here is going to stand by while we all get sued and get threatened. I don't know the cost of that lawsuit, but I'm hearing a lot of concern about what this will cost. I have legitimate concerns tonight that we should at least wait, see what other communities are doing. Port and other communities are also involved, and I think we need to wait and see what's going to happen. If we wait before the end of the deadline, I don't see a major problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last comment before, or question before we move to a vote.
Good evening. Amy Bush, 35 Blue Ridge Road.
Please come closer to the
Sorry.
microphone.
Just a couple quick questions. One is, do we have the opportunity to amend the article so that if a developer comes and wants to develop the parcels, that it would have to come back to town meeting?
No.
We do not.
I'm assuming the next question is going to also be a no, but, and there's no way to amend it so we could restrict the size of the units. I mean, one of my concerns is the schools, and although we're talking about potentially giving up grant money from the state, we are potentially looking at a lot of additional money that we're going to have to spend because our schools are going to be overridden and we're going to have to rebuild.
No, so perfectly fair question. The state law does not allow it. I think the theory is that you could make it so onerous that nobody would ever build, and that's, I guess, that's not what their purpose is. So if you said it has to be only, studios, or it has to only be 5 bedrooms, the state says no, you can't restrict it by age, and you can't restrict the bedroom counts and things like that. So no, the state law does not allow that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're very, very welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're ready to come to a vote. This matter requires a majority vote. We will eye it in each of the rooms, and I'd ask your indulgence in recognizing the judgment yourself in each of the rooms. So all of those in favor of the article as presented, please raise your voting card.
What's the question? A voting?
You may put your cards down. All those opposed to the article, please raise your voting card.
Yeah, that's, might be 2/3.
You may put your cards down. I declare in this room a decided majority, certainly greater than 2/3. I'm going to ask the judgment of the deputy moderator in the cafeteria.
Mr. Moderator, the vote here is close to a simple majority, but I couldn't spin it.
And in the field house, please.
Fieldhouse reports a slight majority.
Okay. So prudence suggests that we should count the vote. We've done this before, so all those in favor, please raise your voting card once again.
it's going to be a significant majority. I'm going to say like 60%. Maybe 58, 60%. I didn't even have to mention that class sizes have actually gone down every year. It's been the opposite. Because one and two, one in, I mean, do you have a one bedroom or two bedroom? Two bedroom. 0, 1, sometimes 2 can have kids. 0 and 1 almost never have kids. And 2, do you? Yeah. Okay. Okay. There you go. So one.
Keep your cards up until instructed to put them down. For your benefit, we have 2 independent counters for each section, and they need to come up with the same number. You can put your cards down. Okay, folks, we are ready to hear the We're ready to hear the tally of the yes votes. Section number 1.
Section 1, 53.
53. Section 2.
83.
83. Section 3.
Section 3, 44.
44. Section 4.
Section 4, 55.
55. We've got a little pattern going here. Section 5.
What was it?
54, sorry.
Section 5.
54.
Say it again, please.
54.
54.
Yeah, sorry about that, everyone.
Thank you. Section 6.
33.
33. Section 7.
22-0.
Say again, please.
20.
2020. Thank you for putting it that way. And Section 8.
24.
24. Thank you. Section 9.
Section 9. 16. 1. 6.
16. I thank you for being resolute. Section 10.
Section 10, 25. 25.
25. Section 11. Fieldhouse.
Section 11, 103.
103. And Section 12. 25. 535 votes in the affirmative. Now, all of those opposed to the article, please raise your card.
Thank you for all your help.
Okay, folks. Shh. Now tally the no votes. Section 1.
22.
22. Section 2.
26.
26. Section 3.
44.
44. Section 4.
29.
29. Section 5.
Section 5, 15.
15. Section 6.
13. 13.
13, thank you. Section 7.
Section 10, 10.
10. Section 8.
2, 3, 23.
Thank you very much. Section 9.
Section 9, 7.
7. Section 10.
Section 10, 17, 17.
17, thank you. The Field House, Section 11.
$47, 47.
47 and Section 12. 0. The article passes 535 to 253. Folks, I realize we all want to run out of here, but we've only got 5 or 6 things to really quickly go through. Let's be courteous as courteous as we can. Article 22 is being withdrawn. Is there? Article 22 is being withdrawn. Is there objection? Hearing none. 22. Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, make a motion to reconsider Article 28.
I'm not going to accept it. We're trying not to do that as a matter of course, but I appreciate the intent. Citizen petitions. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Article 11 is next. Let's be quiet if you're exiting. Article 11, do we have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. I would move to adopt Article 11 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all that we can see the recommendations as given. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous vote. Do I hear objection or a difference in either of the other rooms?
Majority.
And in the field house?
Majority vote in the field house.
Okay, thank you very much. We are now Article 16.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Move to adopt Article 16 as printed in the warrant, displayed on the screen.
Motion is made and
Second.
seconded. We see the favorable recommendations of the Finance Committee and the Select Board. Is there any discussion?
Hi, Mr. Moderator. I'm Heather McNeil, 13 Union Street. This is a question from outside the room, though.
Please.
Aaron Kochi, I hope I'm saying the name correctly, at 310 Pleasant Street, just wants to know how this will impact those receiving special ed services.
We had a question about how this will impact special ed services. Does anybody care to answer that query?
Mr. Moderator, these funds are being used to offset special ed services that were done during the fiscal year 24 budget.
Okay. No further context from the school committee. Thank you very much. Sir.
Hi, Jeff Moon, Berry Street. Hi, how you doing? Question, so this is coming from one of the reserve funds, and so I guess, not being a financial guru, I'm trying to understand why we would pull from there, because my impression of reserve funds is that those are used from like a savings account perspective, and that we use it almost like a rainy day fund, where it seems like special education should be a line item that's in our school budget, which obviously we don't have in front of us right now. So can I get some clarification on why we have it that way?
Fair question.
I agree with you 100%. So the town back in 2015 created a special ed stabilization account that actually specifically was for offsetting increases that were unexpected during a fiscal year. So it was actually created for this exact purpose. I agree with you that I don't think it's the best way to do it, and I prefer to have a reserve in the budget, and that is the plan moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your card. You may put them down. All those opposed, raise your card. I declare it a unanimous vote in this room. Cafeteria, please.
It is near unanimous in the cafeteria.
Thank you, sir. And in the field house.
Unanimous vote in the field house.
Thank you. I declare it a majority vote. We will move to Article 17.
Mr. Moderator, I would make a motion to move Article 17 as displayed on the screen in the motion book.
There we are.
Yep.
Article 17 will be transferring $377,000 and plus from free cash to the general fund. Do we have any queries in any of the other rooms? Okay, let's just be formal about this. Do we have a recommendation from the Select Board?
Yes, the Select Board recommended favorable action.
Thank you. And from the Finance Committee?
Yes, favorable action.
Okay, we ready for a vote? All of you lion-hearted people, I really appreciate you being here. Please raise your card. You can put it down. Those voting no, raise your card. I see a unanimous vote in this room. Cafeteria?
They're unanimous.
And Field House?
Unanimous vote in the field house.
Thank you. I declare it a majority vote. Article 21. We have a guest for Article 21. Please come forward. Our guest is the Superintendent Director of the Greater Lawrence Technical School and our representative from North Andover. If he would introduce himself, and then the superintendent. And I understand there's a need for about 3 minutes.
Okay, Mr. Moderator, Bill Tarbox from Forest Street, 205. Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant as displayed on the screen.
The motion is made.
Second.
And seconded. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I want to
please move forward.
I want to present John Lavoie, Superintendent of Greater Lawrence.
That's fine.
To speak about the program.
Thank you. Welcome, sir. You are technically a stranger, but you have my permission to speak.
Thank you.
And we'll put 3 minutes on the board.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You're very welcome, sir.
The town's approval of this motion will enable the Greater Lawrence Technical School to start an aviation maintenance program for its students. Truly innovative program which will be only the second of its kind in Massachusetts. We estimate that the North Andover share of the annual base rent will be only $118.50 for fiscal year 25 and approximately ongoing after that. I want to be very clear that the Greater Lawrence Technical School is asking only for your approval for a very narrow amendment to the regional district's agreement with its member community to allow the school to lease land for a specific hangar from the City of Lawrence for the school's new aviation maintenance program. On behalf of Greater Lawrence Technical School and all of its students, I thank you for your vote and for your support of this exciting and transformative program.
I thank you very much, sir. Do we have any board recommendations? I don't think so. We do. Select Board?
The Select Board recommended favorable action.
Thank you. And
the Finance Committee recommended favorable action.
Okay. Do we have any questions for our Superintendent Director? Hearing none, let's award him, please. All those in favor, please raise your card. You may put them down. All those against, raise your card. I declare it a unanimous vote in this room, in the cafeteria.
Here, unanimous, Mr. Moderator.
And in the field house.
Unanimous vote.
Good fortune with your program, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Article 22, I started to speak previously. We are going to take no action. Is there objection to it being withdrawn? Hearing none, we will move on to citizen petitions. Article 23. Another patient individual. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move the article as written in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Motion is made and seconded. Mr. Orlansky.
Aaron Orlansky, 415 Ray Street. This is an extension of an existing street. All the work has been completed, construction done. The builder and the homeowners have completed all the necessary steps for the town to adopt. That's it. Thank you.
I thank you, sir. Do we have any recommendations?
The Select Board recommends favorable action.
Planning Board recommends favorable action.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion or questions, all those in favor, please raise your card. All those opposed, please raise your card. I declare it a unanimous vote in this room. Cafeteria.
Again, near unanimous.
Thank you, sir. And the field house?
Unanimous vote.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, sir. Article 24. Do we have a motion?
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. I move to adopt Article 24 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? Motion is made and seconded. Ms. Barnesi, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Kate Barnesi, residing at 17 Quail Run Road. Also here serving as attorney on behalf of the Woodley Village Homeowners Trust. This Woodley Road is a subdivision located off of Chestnut Street. It was an 11-lot subdivision that was approved by the planning board back in 1996. All 11 lots have been developed and sold, and a conservation restriction, which will permanently preserve a little over 10.4 acres of open space, is currently pending state review, and we expect that to be finalized shortly. All of the other work required by the town as preconditions for the acceptance has been completed, and for these reasons, we are requesting this vote to accept Woodley Road as a public way.
I thank you for that. Do we have any recommendations?
The Select Board recommends favorable action.
Thank you. And
The planning board recommended favorable action, understanding that this would be contingent on the eventual receipt of the conservation restriction just mentioned by Ms. Barnesi.
so the motion is contingent.
No, just that was our recommendation, not the motion,
Okay.
just our
Okay.
recommendation.
Fair
is
enough.
contingent.
Do we have any discussion or questions? In the other rooms? Hearing none, I think we're ready for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your card. You may put them down. All those opposed, raise your card. I declare a unanimous vote in this room. In the cafeteria?
Once again, near
Thank you. We're going to change your name to near unanimous. And in the field house?
Another unanimous vote in the field house.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. I declare it a majority vote. We are going to Article 25. Do we have a motion?
James Worden, 84 Academy Road. Move to adopt Article 25 as displayed on the screen.
The motion is made. Is there a second? The motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Sir, do you have a presentation?
Yes, very quickly.
Okay, 2 minutes on the clock.
Next slide. So the Historic Barn Overlay District allows very limited, totally non-obtrusive light commercial activity in historic agricultural barns strictly within the four walls to prevent them from falling into disrepair from non-use. This article does not restrict in any way what an owner can already legally do in their barn or any other building on their property in town. It's restricted to art, prototyping, and limited office use with a special permit issued from the planning board and no more than 2 cars not parked on the street and ideally not visible from the street as approved by the planning board. No signage, no retail, no noise, no lights, no fumes. The goal is to do quiet, inspirational activities in these historic structures so they don't become dilapidated due to non-use and continue to protect these old barns as part of the historic nature of North Andover.
Anything else?
Just hoping
Okay,
that people
I know
will
that there's
enjoy
another
this.
slide as I
There's
recollect.
one more slide, yeah, just as
Okay.
another example of a...
Fair enough. So do we have a select board recommendation?
The Select Board recommends favorable action.
And the planning board recommendation?
Favorable action, and if I could have 2 minutes just to
Please.
elaborate on. So the planning board recommends favorable action. This is a citizen petition that came before us. Citizens are able to come and recommend zoning articles, and Mr. Worden did that. The planning board felt that it was a good proposal, but we did both expand and contract what his suggestion was. When it originally came, it was just for basically one parcel where he was proposing this modest use in a historic barn. What we did was we expanded that to include all of the old center district, that there might be other people that may be able to take use of this. As we discussed earlier, this is an overlay district, meaning it doesn't change the underlying zoning in the area, it just adds a use, but it's a very limited use to kind of some prototyping or a small office, nothing that would be either visible or obnoxious to neighbors. It requires a planning board special permit. There had been some questions about whether we could expand this even further. That's potential down the line. There are other old buildings in town that maybe could use, but we wanted to start small, see if it works, make sure that there weren't any problems. So we felt that doing it in this district, which is the historic district downtown, would be the best. It would have probably been we would have probably sponsored it as a planning board article, it came to us a little late in the game to kind of do that with when the warrant requirements were. But we think it's very unobtrusive. We think it's kind of a good idea, a way to use old buildings and potentially reuse them, and really very little to no harm to anyone outstanding. So that's why we are supportive of it.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comment? Hearing none in the other rooms, I think we're ready for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your card. You may put your hands down. All those opposed, raise your card. Okay, I declare a unanimous vote in this room. Let's go to Mr. Neely, unanimous, in the cafeteria.
We got a unanimous vote here.
And in the field house, please.
An overwhelmingly unanimous vote.
Any more superlatives anybody would like to use? Thank you very much. I declare the article passes unanimously in this circumstance. Article 26 has been withdrawn. Is there objection to it being withdrawn? I hear none. As we get ready to discuss Article 27, I'd ask the petitioners to come forward. I'd only like a personal privilege. Joining us on the stage for the final time is someone we previously introduced at the commencement of the meeting, but she deserves truly special call out. Come on up, Lynn Savage. Come stand next to me. This good woman has served this community for most of 3 decades, even stepping in as acting town manager in a particularly fraught period of time. She sits silently behind us, keeping everything authoritatively straight and working that calculator with calculations that are beyond reproach. Hers has been an honest and vital service to our community, and I thank her and we thank her as she approaches a deserved retirement. Every good fortune to you. I'm going to pay for that, I want you to know. Our penultimate article, Article 27. Mr. Hennessy, do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, thank you. Patrick Hennessy, 636 Chickering Road. I move that Article 27 be adopted as displayed on the screen. This article is slightly amended from the written article for more clarity.
The motion is made. Is there a second? Second. So, do we have discussion? Sir, you need a couple of minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You're very welcome.
I have a financial interest in this article. We are requesting town trash removal for Brookside Townhomes. We have 2 buildings on Chickering Road and 2 buildings on East Water Street, a total of 29 units. We are not a condo association. We own our homes, we own our land, and we pay our fair share of taxes. Our trash barrels are stored at the rear of the 4 buildings. Right now, we have private trash removal at a cost of over $11,000 a year. Would we be eligible for trash pickup if we put our trash street side? This is impractical due to the configuration of our complex. It would also require several owners to haul their trash barrels well over 100 yards, some of who are senior citizens. Right now, we receive all of the town services, including recycle, except for trash removal. We are requesting the town provide this requested service that we pay for as we pay our fair share of taxes for. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have recommendation from the Select Board?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. At this time, the Select Board is not recommending favorable action on this article. We feel that we need more analysis and study regarding the impacts of allowing condos and townhouses to have municipal trash pickup, since the passage of this article could lead to other condo associations petitioning town meeting. We will be working with town officials to determine the budgetary impact of providing service to all 200 condos and townhouses so that we can make a determination on the issue as a whole.
Is there any other board that has a recommendation? Okay, is there any discussion, any further discussion? You're more than welcome to come.
My name's Erica Fanuelli. I live at 634 Chickering Road at this development.
Welcome.
I would ask that my fellow citizens approve this because there's a lot of single-parent households in this development that need this assistance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion or questions? Please.
Mr. Moderator, Helen Picard, 447 Waverly Road.
Welcome.
I feel confused because the gentleman said it's not a condo association, and the Select Board just responded that they're going to work with condo associations, so I feel a disconnect and I need a little clarity. Thank you.
Can somebody provide some clarity as to whether or not this is considered legally a condominium association?
Sure. My understanding is they have a homeowners association, but not a condo association. What we would like to do is take the time to do an analysis to see what it would cost to pick up all condos and townhomes in North Andover, because we do get often requests, particularly from Mill Pond. So we think that if this passes tonight, it would have many more people coming forward with citizen petitions. So we'd like to look at it holistically.
Okay. Do we have any other comment or query in this room? In any other room?
I have a question. How are you currently...
I'm sorry, please,
Mr. Moderator.
and tell us your name and address.
Eva Pastor, 4 Walker.
Get closer, please.
I have a question. How are you currently paying for your trash removal?
Mr. Moderator, we currently pay for private trash removal from a private contractor of over $11,000 a year.
From where? Is it the Homeowners Association?
Homeowners
money?
Association pays for the contract.
Meadowview Condos does it as well. Yes. So, thank you.
Thank you. We have another query in this room, or question, or comment? Please.
Hello, Carolyn Zimmer, 135 South Bradford Street. I'm sorry if this was shared and I missed it, but what residence is eligible for trash pickup if they pay taxes? I'm a little confused.
So the query is what residences under bylaw are currently eligible?
Our current bylaw states that residential units that are detached single-family residences and multifamily dwelling that contains fewer than 9 living units is not a part of an apartment or condo complex containing 9 living units or more.
And just a point of clarification, that's part of the planning bylaws? Is that what you're quoting from?
That's part of our general bylaws.
General bylaws. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have any other comment in this room, in the cafeteria, or the field house? Hearing none, I think we're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as made, please raise your voting card. Okay, you can put it down. All those opposed, raise your voting card. Okay, we can put it down. I declare that the motion fails by a slight majority in this room. May I ask the judgment in the cafeteria?
I have a similar judgment that it fails.
Thank you. And in the field house?
Motion fails by majority.
By majority. I thank you. The judgment's been made. Any 7 people can choose to have a standing vote if you wish, but frankly, it doesn't appear necessary at this moment. Anybody wish to challenge? I do that as a matter of course. Thank you for your petition. That was our penultimate article. I want to thank you for your indulgence during 52 minutes of darkness with our technical problems. But before we get to the very last article, I want to give thanks to you for your patience. I am deeply appreciative. I want to thank the town clerk, her extraordinary staff, the volunteer tellers, the town IT director, John Highland, and North Andover Community Access Director, Brian Fazier, and staff for stepping in and helping solve our problem. Our head teller, Jeff Coco, lead custodian, Mike Bodenrader, who's been in this room since 6 a.m. this morning with his staff and his many colleagues, and the dozens of others that we celebrated at the front of this meeting to run this meeting. The very act of conducting this meeting is a fitting way to begin our 378th year as a community. Thank you for the respectful debate that we had tonight, the civility you all afforded to each other, your patience once again, and the effort that you've made to contribute to local participatory democracy and our town. Thanks for being kind to each other. The final article.
Mr. Moderator, I move that this 2024 annual town meeting be dissolved.
I hear no objection. The meeting is dissolved. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.